Welcome to the Lost Lowdown podcast 154 with your hosts Claude and Justin.
What's up, guys?
We are back, continuing our season 3, recap commentary series, covering the Mobisodes today. Lost the missing pieces.
Yeah. Didn't think we were gonna skip these, did you?
No, this is part of the experience of the show. Here's some stuff that may or may not matter.
They're the pieces that are missing. They have to matter.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because every missing piece is equally important. That's what
Usually,
I learned.
yeah. But maybe if you have infinite missing pieces.
Yeah, then maybe it's not as significant. Yeah, so this is what we had. I didn't actually do the homework. I know we did a podcast about these back in the day, and I know that they came out between season 3 and 4, which is where we are right now in the commentary series, as you all know. So this is the right time to watch it, and it was sort of something we had to tide us over in the meantime. And this is what we had to think about during that period. It was a nice little bonus. Battlestar Galactica did that too. They did these web episodes in between seasons, and I don't know if I guess they still do that, or do they? I don't know. I feel like no shows that I watch now actually do this anymore.
That was, I think it's a very rare thing to happen.
Yeah. But they were messing. Actually, if I remember right, I think the writer's strike, which occurred in season 4, was partially caused by, or at least a big factor was the sort of compensation for these web episodes.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a big issue. And so there's a connection between that and the writer's strike, which obviously will alter this season later on, in a way we can see. But yeah, it was a weird thing. They were supposed to be on mobile phones, I guess, which is why they were called Mobisodes.
Yeah.
You watch it on your mobile phone, and people were like, I gotta buy Verizon to watch fucking Lost? Really?
It was like, wait, my phone can play these, but you're saying I don't have the correct thing that'll just do this, and what's the point now? And they tried to push TV on your phone, and they thought that's how people were gonna watch episodic, stuff on their phones, and it's like, no, YouTube will handle it all. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I mean, eventually, I guess they had YouTube at the time. How old is YouTube? I guess they did. Yeah, they must have, right? I'm losing track.
I think it was around the same time that it was getting big.
Because they definitely were posted online. I was able to watch them. Even early on, because I think eventually they actually posted them on the official website, so that you could just go there with a browser and watch them. You didn't have to have Verizon or whatever service it was. That they were, because they had a specific sponsor they were linked into.
Yeah.
It was, I guess it was weird, new media experimentation or something. But the result is, a lot of weird little scenes that maybe wouldn't necessarily fit in any actual episodes. And so they're kind of like a cross between deleted scenes and I don't know what the other thing would be.
It reminds me of their version of the Animatrix or something.
Yeah.
There's a little bit more stuff we couldn't really put in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of an expansion of the the official canon of the show, I guess. Even more so, I would say, than the the web experience. What did they call those things? The interactive things they did a couple times, the Lost experience. Because I think the big difference with these is that they tie into stuff that's literally on the show. Yeah. And they have characters from the actual show.
Yeah, that helps.
Whereas the Lost experience was always pretty tangential. The Dharma stuff, when you watch the Dharma stuff, you never saw, you never saw like the Dharma people from the show. You saw
Mm-hmm.
like fucking Alvar Hanzo or not Alvar Hanzo, or was it Alvar Hanzo? Who was that guy? Yeah, it was Alvar Hanzo. You see him, but you're never gonna see
Okay.
him on the show.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
Yeah, and it feels like cheating that they get to use him, and it's just like, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of bullshitty, and I don't really even buy it. I feel like Alvar Hanzo is this mythic figure that can never be seen.
Mm-hmm.
He lives only in our hearts.
He's Santa Claus, basically.
Yeah, and in that scary building where he's like looking out, like that image is so. I love that as the only thing we ever have of him.
Yeah, the only reported sighting is that one picture, yeah.
Yeah, and that's all you get about him, even though for a while, I mean, mainly in season 2, I feel like a point came in the show where I stopped expecting Alvar Hanzo to come and play a role. I feel like basically Widmore is the Alvar Hanzo character.
Yeah, basically.
I mean, he isn't tied in with Dharma, but he has that function. He's a big, international business mogul, and he's got some weird secrets relating to the island.
I wouldn't be surprised if they had more time that Hanzo is the one who recruited Widmore when Widmore left the island. He's like, let me show you the ways of the business world.
Yeah. That would make sense. I could totally see that. That's really logical. Because it's weird. It's a weird path he goes down. Because Widmore is there from a pretty young age. I mean, we see him when he's, 18, early 20s, something like that. He lives on this island. Who knows how long he was there before that. And then he gets banished when he was old. He was probably 50. Yeah. I don't know how young they were he was supposed to be a bit younger, but I mean, it was only 10, 15 years before the present day. In that time, he builds up a business empire. Like, it's crazy. I never even thought about this.
Anything's possible, right? In capitalism,
wow.
You can do it too.
Wow, like he gives this impression of like old money or something, but realistically,
because of the McCutcheon, you think he's an old. He was born into money and power and privilege his entire life because he, how he's introduced and how he's looking down on Desmond, but it's like. It's like, dude, you were living barefoot on the island last week.
Not that long ago, yeah. Yeah, I never really put that together, how weird that is.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that either. Wow.
I can't believe it took us that long. Wow.
Yeah, they get away with it somehow that by the time you reveal his origin story on the island, you've known him so long as this billionaire playboy Charles Widmore.
Yeah.
That like you don't wonder, well, wait, what does that mean? Like,
yeah.
How did you become that guy?
How does that life make sense?
Yeah.
Like how did you leave and become that? It's crazy. Like I just imagine if Ben, and Ben did leave the island for a while. He did not become a Widmore.
They all had money somehow, right?
They did have money.
Why?
True.
Why did they have access to money?
I don't know. Did Jacob do that? Did they have business ventures around the world? Were they really good investors? I really don't know what we're supposed to think about why they had money. But but when Widmore is banished, I'm assuming that, I mean, unless he stole it or he used the information he had when he was still the leader, like he shouldn't have had, I would think he wouldn't any longer have access to the others' fund or whatever they were using. Because it's true, Ben had money, but he didn't make Linus Industries or anything. You know what I mean? It didn't seem as though he actually did anything.
Well, it almost seems like they wouldn't have really had money as a group until Ben gets in charge, right? Because it seemed like they weren't leaving the island when Widmore was in charge.
Right. Yeah, right.
Until he started leaving.
Yeah, that's true.
But it seemed like, so it's like maybe he started leaving and then he was building up a business.
Yeah, so maybe that's when he was building the empire, when he was leaving.
Yeah.
And he it wasn't enough. That's so weird. That's weird.
I think it's supposed to be some idea that he was sort of capitalizing on the secrets of the island or something in a capitalistic way. I don't know. I somehow had that idea that like that was the idea behind him. Like he got banished, but he was like, that's why, it's like Jurassic Park. Like he's, he wants to get back to the island so he can continue making money off of it. He's run out of ways that he's exploited what he knew already,
I think they insinuate something like that. I think Ben insinuates something like that in season 4, where he's like, Widmore wants the island because, like, I think what he suggests is that he's gonna like bring tourists there to admire Locke and his ability to walk or something. I think that's what he.
That's a really lame attraction.
I know. It's they're gonna be really disappointed, no matter what you
like.
Charge.
Just the guy standing up.
Yeah. Hey guys, I couldn't walk before.
He's like, couldn't walk before,
Not
but guess
that
what?
You can really tell.
Yeah, but I promise you, it's true. Take my word for it.
Lying. I'll show you a picture of me in the wheelchair for whatever that proves.
Is that convincing? Are you glad you paid $10,000 to come here?
It doesn't make any sense. But I was thinking about, just from a character point of view, like what it says about Widmore, that he was, he's in this group, the others, but he feels the need to leave the island and like go start this like mega corporation, like somehow just surviving on the island with the others, protecting it, whatever they do, like wasn't enough for him, And then at the same time, when he's banished, he uses all his resources to try to go back, and yet when he was there, he was leaving, it wasn't enough. Like, it's kind of strange. I'm not sure I really understand his character.
You don't know what you got till it's gone.
I guess that's what it is.
Story old as time.
I guess that's what it is. Yeah. He just didn't realize the island, you were my baby, and then I lost my baby.
Gotta get my baby back.
I gotta get my baby back. Yeah. I guess so. But it's just a bit strange. I mean,
it could have used some explaining.
Yeah, I think one of the problems with Widmore is how sketchy his motivations are. And like what I'm talking about is really a small part of that, because it's not even directly relevant to the plot. It's it's more just about his like character motivations and stuff. But a lot of the stuff he does, I feel like doesn't really. It's hard to. It doesn't really make sense. Like they don't provide a clear explanation.
Yeah.
In terms of what he cares about and what he's even thinking, and what his goals are. Like say that he sends this freighter and they capture Ben. Then what? Like what's part? And then you kill everyone on the island or whatever. Then what? Like what's the what I mean?
Then he's free to own the island and run it however he sees fit.
And then he just owns the island. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's sort of like, is that it? Or did he have anything more specific in mind than that? I mean, what is his attachment to the island? You know what I mean? Like, is it just because he was in the others and they're sort of taught that the island is special, or does he believe it's special for some other reason? You know what I mean? Like, it's not clear why he's even attached to the island, because we don't see anything in his backstory that shows that he has any like intrinsic connection. Not like with Locke or even with Ben. Where they have these like really personal things that happen to them on the island, and you can see why they have this connection. You know what I mean? Like, it's not there.
Yeah, I think he's a pragmatist in a way where he's just like, well, that was a crazy place. I can make money off of that.
Yeah.
It's hard to know what his motivation is.
I would love to see that, though. I would love to see, like, can you imagine the profit margins? Like, I want to hear.
Was he's Christopher Lloyd?
Yeah. Was that Christopher Lloyd?
Great Scott.
Like, I would sort of like, I would like some lines where he's like, yeah, that's what I want, I want to go there and profit from it somehow. or you know what I mean? Or I just want it for
Or a very easy thing would be like he's dying and he wants to go back so he could be healed, like,
that
or
would
something.
Be great. That would be great.
Yeah, I think there was this undercurrent with this character that he had stumbled onto something big, and that if he got back to the island, he could like complete this long mission. And that's the I feel like that's the general feeling you have when you watch his character over time. But then it's kind of like, yeah, what did you want? Like, I don't think there was a big deal. Like if he was like, okay, I before I left the island, I found the light cave, but Ben kicked me off right before I could really investigate it.
Right.
And now I'm gonna come back with Desmond, and I'm gonna use him to unlock this energy, whatever force field or whatever idea he has about this. It's unlimited energy. It's the gold mine of the next millennium.
Right.
Or something like that. And we have to tap this electromagnetism for all this energy here.
Yeah.
And it's like they're almost saying that.
Right.
Because they come back and they're looking for these pockets of energy. It's like, why are they looking for the pockets?
Yeah. Yeah. And the answer is just, who knows?
The answer was never mind.
And don't even think about it. When you said that, it reminded me of this line when Ben goes to him, in season 4, and he walks in his room and he's like, when did you start sleeping with a bottle of scotch by the bed? And he goes, when the nightmares started.
Oh, man. Sorry, this is so melodramatic.
It really is. But it makes me wonder if he was having...
from what?
That's what I'm saying. It's so vague.
Well, is it nightmares from the future when you massacre the Ajira passengers?
That's what I'm wondering. If he's having Kate ends up having that scary dream where Claire appears. I'm wondering if it's something like that, some weird island-related dreams. Is that part of what's motivating him? I mean, they never say that. He's just, or is he just having nightmares? Because it happens.
Yeah. I just thought, it would have been an interesting reveal if Widmore's name was on the list.
Oh, you mean? Like the candidates?
If he was on the cave wall.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been an interesting little extra connection to why he's so involved with this island in this sort of amorphous way of I gotta get back there.
If he knew that and he actually wanted to be, and he would be sort of competing.
Yeah, and he thought, well, who's ever leader of the others will be the prime candidate to be the next Jacob, so I need to kill Ben and get my place back.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wants to be king of the island. Well, it's kind of the same thing, but it's a different motivation for it.
Yeah.
A specific reason for it.
Yeah, exactly. Which is sort of what I was missing.
Exactly. Why is he doing it? Yeah.
Yeah, why? I understand that's what he wants, but there should be. It's not clear what he views as the intrinsic value of the island for him. What is it exactly? That you stand to gain from this, that you can get from just, as I've heard from, other sources, islands can be bought, that are a lot easier to find and probably just as beautiful as that one. And so why not just do that? You know what I mean? There must be something about that island, right? If he's going to go to all that trouble for that one.
Yeah, maybe he left his sunglasses there, and it was his favorite pair. He just really wants to get them back.
Yeah,
they're his favorite shades.
Oh my god.
They don't make those anymore. He knows exactly where he left them. He just needs to get there, and
I just gotta walk there and pick them up.
Yeah, I promise I'll stop bombing you guys as soon as I get my sunglasses, and I'll be out of your hair. Or just I've been thinking about him all these years, and Yeah, no, it would have been awesome if he that would have been an extra little twist too. Not only was he candid, but he knew because yeah, he would have maybe found that cave at some point, with his time on the island, and
Yeah.
if he, actually that would have been a great motivation of why he started leaving the island.
Yeah.
Like if he finds this cave with this, writing on it with his name in a list. That might, with other stuff going on the island, it might have motivated him to like seek out answers somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's weird. It amazes me how and we're getting into it now because season 4 is pretty much the height of Widmore.
Yeah.
Because he's the primary antagonist in a sense,
Yeah.
Like Kimi becomes the practical one because he's the hired goon who's really doing the damage, but Widmore's behind everything that really is going against our main characters this season.
Yeah.
And that big confrontation between Ben and Widmore, it really seemed like that he was going to be the main villain for the show at that point.
Yeah.
And it's only later you realize like how insignificant he really is.
Well, that really was the point of the show made every season, right? Is that whatever the big thing is right now, it's not the big thing of the show.
Yeah.
Whether it's, the smoke monster or it's the Swan Station, like all the big things they set up. It's like, yeah, this is about Widmore now, but
yeah,
it's gonna be about Widmore forever.
You're right. I think in season 1 maybe it wasn't totally defined. In season 2 they made the switch where they sort of tell you kind of think Tom is in charge of the others from the end of season 1. And they tell you, no, there's another leader. And you discover, oh, it's Ben,
So they string you along further, yep.
And I think Ben's apotheosis comes in season 3. I think we've passed the height of sort of his powers. Because I think everything he does after this is him scrapping.
He was at the top, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of all downhill from here. And at a certain point, like, he's getting his strings pulled. Yeah. And he's not even working against our characters anymore. And so he's not really an antagonist.
He gets dethroned and he becomes kind of you see that in stories sometimes where where the guy who's on top has to hang out with the former good guy, his former enemies just to survive.
Yeah.
Now because they're all in the same boat now.
Right.
None of them. He can't play the game of I know more than you, therefore I have the power.
Right.
When Locke shows up undead.
Exactly.
And take me to see Jacob, and he's like, oh, okay, I don't know what's going on here.
Even though I will give him credit, his first thing is like, oh, I knew this would happen.
Yep.
Yeah. This is what I was expecting. That's why I was like, oh, you got to get the body on there because I was like, he's gonna come back to life because that's obviously
That's a great. I mean that's such a great character trait. Like the ability to take credit for magic.
Yeah.
Call dibs on it.
Yeah.
It's such a funny thing to oh, that crazy thing. Yeah, I just made that happen. Yep. That's all me, guys. Before you even question what happened there, I just want to say I take credit for that.
Yeah, which definitely ties in well with him sort of faking the cabin, and also rolling with it when shit really does start to happen.
Yeah.
Because it shows even a dead guy coming back to life, he's not shaken enough by that to still try to use it to his own advantage.
I was gonna say he's actually a great improviser. That's really one of his biggest. He would do great in improv. He's a yes and.
He's all about yes and.
He stays in character. He just completely rolls with it, and nothing shakes him until the scene's over. Yeah, no, that's really what he's doing a lot of times is just going with it and maintaining his control and manipulating, calculating.
Right. And I think that's a big power shift that happens there because the Man in Black knows he's lying.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he knows he's full of shit because he's believing he's Locke, so he really doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, and he's gonna use that to manipulate him, and so like he's sitting there thinking, oh, this is great. You're gonna just buy into this. Perfect.
Yeah.
Like you're not even gonna be suspicious.
He just legitimized it for him. He's like, yeah, okay, well, nothing see here. Ben knew it, so we're all good. Okay, that's what happened.
Yeah, like that's and I'm gonna go to the others, and Ben already thinks that I'm really Locke come back to life, so that gives me an extra bit of credibility.
He was probably like, wow, it really was that easy.
Yeah, exactly. Like it seems like it should have been harder.
Yeah.
But because of Ben's like crazy improvisation / ability to like lie and manipulate on cue, it really plays into his plan. Whereas usually in those scenes it would be Locke who believes Ben knows what he's talking about, and just turns out to be wrong later.
Yeah.
So of course the power reverse happens when it's not Locke anymore.
Yeah, it's crazy.
As usual. But yeah, it's definitely, I think that ability allowed him to coast through a lot of different situations.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like a normal villain like him probably should have died like a lot earlier.
Yeah, even Ben throwing Carl into the brainwashing thing was an improvisation.
Yeah.
Reacted. He was like, I was just yes-anding. I had the idea. I did it. I guess it was bad. Oops.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, yeah, and I think you see that. Yeah, he's got that spontaneous streak too of just like, I'm going to gas all the Dharma people. All right, let's keep going, guys.
Yeah. I feel like you could even see like the trip to the cabin that way. Not just what happens there, but the idea to go to the cabin.
Yeah, I think so. Like, yeah, we talked about it in that episode where it does just seem like Ben came up with that idea. He's like, okay, Locke's the man in front of everybody to go to see Jacob. Fine, I got a place I'll take you.
Mm-hmm.
You want to see Jacob? Yeah. Sure, I'll let you, quote, see him.
Mm-hmm.
And he has all the time over there to think about all the different angles he can play.
Yeah. And
what could happen and all the different, chains of causality and what to do,
Yeah.
And then he just rolls with it when stuff really starts flying around.
Yeah, he's like, okay, this is fine because this makes my story look authentic.
Yeah. and that to me is how it plays because you get that surprise button at the end when Locke actually hears something and he's like, wait a minute. Ben's like, wait a minute, now Locke is ahead of me. Like, I was leading this game. It was playing into my hand. Everything was fine. And now, wait a minute, what? Something I didn't plan for happened. And I can't, he can't maneuver when he's in the dark about something.
Right.
Because he doesn't know what hand to play, right?
Yeah.
So, because he, just basically what you said about him with Man in Black, it's like everything he's saying is just not working because Man in Black has the upper hand.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, so he wants to know what's going on. But, it's interesting that, the cabin scene.
Yeah. It's weird. And, I mean, Locke doesn't have the upper hand for long because Ben shoots him and Locke tells him what he said. So he doesn't really get to. And then they both promptly forget about it. It never comes up again, which is something that bothers me.
I was just going to say, Locke ends up throwing a knife at Naomi after that, but he doesn't go, okay, now I have to go kill Ben because he tried to murder me.
Yeah, you're right. That is not his reaction. He actually keeps Ben alive specifically, and takes him with him, in his group, just so Ben can make him throw dishes again, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, you're right. He really should just kill Ben. Like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Hasn't he done enough already?
Yep, I think so.
What's it gonna take? Clearly, it's gonna take him talking you out of suicide and murdering you.
And then murdering you. That's what it's gonna take. And then you still won't know why.
And then you still won't know why. It's ridiculous. Like, come on. Oh man.
Yeah, I feel like that's Ben's line of argument. You know, at the gates of heaven, he's like, "Come on, God! Like, listen, what was I supposed to do? The guy was asking for it all those years. It was just so easy."
Yeah, exactly.
Can you walk really into it every time?
Yeah, every single time. It's ridiculous.
It's like, where does he keep getting these dishes to throw? He's always around dishes.
I know. It's like the satisfaction he gets from Locke throwing dishes is like, it infuriated me, you know? I was so annoyed at his petty like ability to have power over Locke.
Yeah.
You know, the smallest thing, just planting a little doubt in Locke's mind, and he's off the deep end again. And the control that he felt he had coming there, killing Naomi, saying, no, you can't let them come to the island. We're going to go barricade in, and if you want to live, you got to come with me. You know, and it seemed like he was going to take charge, and then like Ben just totally worms his way into his brain.
I think that the die was cast for Locke in season 2 when he lost his faith about the button. I think that really, I mean, you didn't want to believe it at the time, but I think it was clear that if he was gonna, you know, he's like John McCain, he's a flip flopper. Like once he flip flopped on the button, I think I was like, well, if he's gonna be unsure about that core belief, then anything will be up for grabs. And I think you could have seen like I could see a cartoon version of Lost where like Locke is coming in and out of like a revolving door, and on one side Man in Black is telling him they've got to come to the island, and on another side he's telling them they've got to leave the island, and he's just believing each one at every turn.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's just that's really the opposite of leadership, right? I mean, like that's really a disqualifying feature, I think, because you know, even a leader who makes a mistake is still leading, right? Like you charge the troops in the battle, you made a decision. It might not be the right one, but that's part of the decision-making power of leadership. You know, like actually settling on something. You hope it's the right answer, obviously, but making the decision is part of the thing. And he just would not make a decision.
Right.
He just kept changing his mind about it, which is like the worst. You know, can you imagine a leader, you know, in battle who's like, charge, retreat. Like, yeah, you're going to lose.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you see good leaders, that's how they're portrayed. Like they, you know, they might consider what they should do, but they make a decision and they stick to it.
Yeah.
You know, and they might end up being wrong, but in order to be a good leader, they have to be able to commit to something.
You just described Jack.
I know.
Yeah.
Totally. And that's why he's a way better leader than Locke.
Yeah.
You know, because he isn't always right, but he's at least willing to, you know, fully commit
like the decision to go to the caves. He admitted, okay, bad idea, guys. Let's go back to the beach.
Yeah. Exactly. It happens, but that doesn't change. He doesn't think, well, then now I can't make any more decisions because I might be wrong.
Yeah, and he doesn't say, well, what does it say about me that I thought that was the right decision and it wasn't? And now what should I do?
Now I have to doubt everything I think, you know, and it's just like, it's a very self-destructive cycle.
You know what? Yeah, I feel like Locke doesn't consider new information with past information. He just considers whatever's new.
Yeah.
And he gets wrapped up in that. And then when something new happens, he goes, oh, look at that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's either the new thing that gives him hope or it's the new thing that destroys all of his dreams.
Yeah.
And he's going back and forth between those like the whole time. And he's not willing to, when the new thing comes along, he can't stick with the old thing. He can't say no. I'm This is the path I've chosen. I believe in this.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick with this.
Yeah.
I don't care how many times they said no. I'm going to keep going until they come back with me.
And it's weird. He's a guy whose motto is "Don't tell me what I can't do."
Right.
But he doesn't have that same determination for. I guess maybe it's just short-lived and misguided.
Yeah. I mean, I almost feel like he's telling, he hates that because it's almost like a weird psychological thing where he knows on some level, or even if he even knows isn't the right word, he feels on some level that there's a lot of things he can't do, and so it really bothers him when people say that.
It goes back to him being a really sort of pathetic character, to where it really feels like the crux of his being is, secretly deep down in his heart of hearts, he knows he's a loser.
Yes.
He always wants to be more. He's looking for a reason that he's special, that will give him a let him off the hook for his life being so miserable.
Yeah.
And so that he can say, everything bad that happened to me was for a reason. It wasn't in vain, and it wasn't my fault, and that's how I can live with myself.
Yeah.
And he was looking for that thing, and that's a very sad sentiment, but I think it's relatable, in a lot of ways. But it's strange that you couple that with somebody who at this onset and it throughout at times seems like a leader.
Yeah.
Or somebody who's sure about things, but it's like, really, okay, no, he's masking all these other insecurities, and that's why he's vacillating all the time and making these crazy decisions. Because he's in denial about things. Yeah.
It even makes the moment in season 5 when they're time traveling and they see the moment when he was right after Boone died, when he's at the hatch and the light comes on.
Yeah.
And I think Sawyer is like, why don't you go over there and tell yourself not to be, or what, and he's like, I needed that pain to be where I am now. It almost seems like, there's something even pathetic about that. Like, he's convincing himself, because are you thinking about that when you're just going to try to kill yourself in a couple weeks? Because everyone says
where you are now, so is it so great?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Is it so great? And couldn't this be pain that you need to get where you're going next?
Yeah. How much misery have you caused between then and now? And you're saying that's worth where you are right now? No, if you really thought about that. And that's where the sadness comes in. Because, he's got to believe that, to keep going.
He really wants to. Yeah. But and actually the first time through, I was convinced by it because, of course, I thought he was on some kind of journey that was ultimately going to lead to some kind of accomplishment and victory, triumph, something for him. I was convinced about that, and when he comes back to life, it feels like. Feels like that's where that's going.
Does it feel like a second chance, perhaps?
It does. It really feels like a second chance, and that's what they're doing. It's so harsh what they're doing to you.
Yeah.
And to the character, to.
It's the worst. It's a great hand to play. Like it's like you could not play that hand when you think of that. Like, okay, the audience is going to expect this guy to come back.
Yeah.
And this is what they really want to see. They don't even know they want to see this until we show them that this is it. And then oh yeah, this is great, but then it won't be that character.
Yeah.
And not only will it not be that character, it's going to be the villain of the show.
Yeah.
Who manipulated this guy and everybody else this entire time.
Yeah.
And, oh yeah, by the way, the character he's pretending to be never got a second chance.
Right.
And died miserably.
Yes. And he's going to spend the remainder of his time, a lot of it at least, just mocking Locke, talking about his dying thoughts and how pathetic they are. You know, like just stepping on everything good we could try to remember about him.
Yeah.
You know, no, come on. You're clearly, you put your glasses on. Like, Locke was a mess. You know, like, if you see him another way, you're crazy.
Yeah.
You know, and there's logic there. It's not crazy to say that. It's not just like, well, he's evil, and so he's kind of an asshole. You know, it's like, I mean, you know, maybe he's going a little too extreme, but there is a lot of, what he says makes sense. You know, and it's consistent with what they showed with the character, you know. And that's what he used, you know, because he was the one sending Locke around here and there. You know, if it wasn't Ben, it was the Man in Black.
Yeah.
You know, just handing him off, you know, here, go do this. Here, go do that. Here, go do this. Okay, you're dead now. Thank you.
Yep.
Like, that's his whole, he's just ping-ponging. People telling him what to do, and even Widmore jumps in. Hey, go do this. Like, okay.
Yeah, it's a weird way to have the show end, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, we've discussed it many times, but I think it's, you know, it's one of the major storylines. For the show, and I think it's really hard to like it's hard to talk about it too much because you know, because it's just fundamental to the story overall that they're telling, because like without Locke, you know, the plot does not function at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's like incredibly pivotal to.
I mean, it kind of makes sense they use him again as at the end, right? So.
Yeah. Exactly. And there's such a game they play with him, of like your expectations for him and how that plays into your reaction to what happens in season 5, you know. Yeah. And even when he's revealed to be Man in Black, you know, I still got the sense, and a lot of people pointed this out, that, you know, early on in the show, he was portrayed as being a kind of menacing character who would one day face off against Jack. You know, like they specifically even say that at the end of season 1. There's that, you know, when Jack's like, we're gonna have a Locke problem.
Yeah,
you know? And what that actually is in season 2 is just bickering, really. You know, they don't have the kind of epic conflict that happens at the end of the series at all.
Yeah.
But it kind of feels like Locke was there was a part of them that wanted Locke to be that bad guy.
They wanted the man of science, man of faith thing, you know.
Yeah. And they would have a war, and somehow, you know, just literally having Locke.
I could totally see that show, that version of the show where it would have been around after season 3. Locke becomes the leader of the others.
Yeah.
And he goes off to find the keys of the island, and then Jack is leading the Losties, and then they have to come to a battle because the freighter shows up and Jack's team, Jack wants to leave and Locke doesn't want anybody to leave. Yeah, you can totally see like them setting it up between those two dualities of leaders on the island and that whole dynamic.
Exactly, and it sort of feels like the Man in Black thing, because he's Locke, because he's appearing to be Locke, allows them to realize that, without literally having Locke turn into the you know, like on the surface, like openly acknowledged villain. You know, because we've already talked about the fact that he is a villain in a kind of undercurrent way. Like he's a villain underneath the story. He's not a villain in the obvious way.
Yeah.
You know, but they didn't want to go that far of having him just be like, yeah, fuck this. I'm just going to be evil. You know, like I'm just going to embrace that, and I'm just, you know, I'll just kill you guys.
Well, what's the, you know, it's
you funny. Know, if you don't leave, I'll kill you.
What's the definition of a villain, right? You know, really, like the antagonist. Yeah. The definition there, the difference between an antagonist and a protagonist is they either want the same thing and they want to get it different ways, or they want opposite things, right? Yeah. And so that's how he becomes a villain, is he wants opposite things.
Right. Yeah, like they could have had it like Sloane on Alias, where like
they wanted the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, where like he wants the island, but he wants to use it for, you know, he wants it for himself. You know, and he wants to exploit it somehow, you know, for selfish reasons. And like Jack has to stop him from that, you know, but, you know, he also wants to protect the island or find out what's going on or whatever. Yeah. You know, like they could have done, there's a lot of those stories they could have done.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's a logic to what they did, I think. It allowed them to, you know, deal with a lot of lingering mythological issues. Bringing in the smoke monster, bringing in Jacob.
Letting him be able to talk and all that stuff. Yeah. And acknowledge certain things, yeah.
Exactly. And also, it allowed them to not turn Locke into a bad guy. So when he's there in the afterlife, you know, he can still be a beloved character.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't have to do anything so bad.
And it's kind of funny, right? That like everyone else is gonna remember what they're, you know, I think we talked about this on the podcast like before. Like everyone else's last memory of Locke is when he was fighting Jack on the cliffs, trying to kill them all. You know what I mean? And he missed that entire part because he was dead.
Yeah.
So he's gonna be like, why doesn't anyone want to sit next to me in the afterlife? What happened, guys? And they're like, listen, well, we know it wasn't you, but you know, Man in Black kind of wore your body and kind of, you know, terrorized everybody for a whole season.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we did talk about that. There is that moment when it seems like Sun remembers, you know, when they're being wheeled into the hospital. And she sees him, and she's like, "It's him," you know, like it. And I remember also thinking when Desmond ran him over that he was like, "Take that, man," you know.
Why wouldn't you? I mean, you wouldn't take a chance. You would not take a chance. You wouldn't have any reason to think it's not him.
Yeah.
Because the last time you thought it wasn't him, it was him, right? So why not this time?
Totally. I even remember in the final episode when Locke wakes up from the surgery and he opens his eyes and he's like, "It worked." Like for a half second going, "Oh my God, please tell me the Man in Black did not transport to the Flash side."
Yeah, I really thought they were gonna pull a Matrix like that and have like the consciousness come out, and I thought,
my God,
that would have been actually a really genius move of like, he said he wanted to leave the island, and he really left the island.
Yeah,
left that whole reality, and it's like, what would the implications be then if like he took evil incarnate into the Flash sideways?
Oh my God,
like, yeah, that would have been an interesting, you know, his way. Like he did get off the island, you know.
Right.
Oh, and that's what's weird, right? Who's to say what happens to that consciousness once he's killed, right?
Definitely.
Why wouldn't he?
For all we know, he does get a Flash sideways.
Why would the Flash sideways be biased against him?
I wouldn't think it would be. I mean, fucking Kimi was there, you know. Like, why not? Why not the Man in Black? Exactly. You know, if Kimi lived 2,000 years, I'm sure he would have done as much. You know, it's. I don't think
it would imply some strange morality to say no, you don't get a Flash sideways. Like what? Like why? Based on what? Like,
yeah, the flash sideways seemed amoral. It actually seemed relative. Like the only reason Michael didn't get a flash sideways is because he felt he didn't deserve one.
exactly, yeah.
You know, and that he could have one if he
you
could
create your own flash sideways.
Yeah, exactly. Of course you do. Of course on
you
Lost you have to make your own fucking afterlife.
Yeah. I think the quote is make your own music, right? That's why they kept playing that song. Right? I mean, talk about lyrics that are literally telling you to be interpretational and
You're right.
take the meaning that works for you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. That's definitely what that's about. I never thought about that.
Yeah, I never got that either.
But you're right. You're right. Make your own kind of music is totally like the song version of what everyone's doing.
Yep. They're all making their own kind of music.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, it brings in the question those those montages they would do where everyone's like slow motion and music playing and
yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the mobisodes here because there's a lot of craziness I remember, but I have not seen these in a long time.
Yeah. I haven't either, so it'll be interesting. I only remember like really small things, so yeah, this will be even more so than like regular episodes.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let me know when you're ready.
Okay. Oh, so we are doing we're doing Play All on the Blu-ray, so we're just gonna go straight through them all.
Yeah, so if you're gonna sync up with this, go to Play All on your Blu-ray or DVD, and it should be one long track.
I assumed you all had Blu-ray, but I guess there are probably some DVDs out there still. So yeah, it should still work. I presume they have Play All also.
Yeah, Blu-ray is kind of like Kleenex. It's kind of it's almost like encompasses whatever your disc is.
Exactly. Okay, so I think I am ready.
All right, here we go. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lost Missing Pieces.
Here they are.
That was a sad title sequence.
Yeah, it was pretty.
They didn't put much effort into it.
No.
Phones couldn't handle it back then.
King of the Castle.
Yeah. So there's a hole in that closet back there where Ben can call the smoke monster.
Yep, secret.
If I'm not mistaken.
Secret room. Yeah.
Is the context here?
Yeah. Oh my god.
So Smokey's like listening to this conversation.
Probably.
He's got his ear pressed up. Yeah, these feel strange.
Yeah.
They're shot weird. Something like that's true, but using those words makes you think something specific.
I love that. The island's gonna sink the sub? Ha! No.
No, it'll just have Locke sink the sub.
Exactly. Uh-oh. Foreshadowing.
Say never. Uh-oh.
Oh, he said it.
He sounds really southern in this. Does he sound extra southern?
I can kind of hear it. Yeah, he gets that way sometimes. He's
got never say never. I'll say.
Like cadence. Yeah, it's weird. I remember feeling that way when he was like, "My plans got shot to sunshine."
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was the end. Holy shit.
Woo. All right.
That flew by. So Locke, Jack and Ben play chess. That's,
yeah. Thank you. Missing piece.
That's what I learned.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Ethan.
Wow, they brought him back. Aren't you another, though? Why are you here?
You should have gained my trust.
Jackpot.
Yeah. Excuse the pun. From our medical station.
Yeah, he's lying, right?
Yeah.
I didn't remember that. He delivered medicine to them.
He probably just grabbed a suitcase that was, on the beach and then stuffed it with the supplies he brought.
That's crazy.
Didn't Juliet have a stash of medicine in this last season?
Yeah.
So they just keep stashing around.
Ethan was even said to have left it. So
yeah, so he just had he's got stashes. So I can inject the baby and test whether or not it's in trouble.
I'm sure you're thinking that. Oh, God.
There are others here.
Oh, they love those winky lines.
Can't believe this is Horace and Amy's kid.
It's really weird. It's really weird. I can't even deal with that.
It's weird knowing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so this is his backstory, his motivation.
Yeah, that's basically what they're telling us here. Like, this is why he was so crazy with the Claire thing.
So it's like Ben's thing. It's mother dying in childbirth.
It's personal for him.
Yeah, I'm surprised Mikhail's like, well, my mother died in childbirth. My wife had a,
Yeah, yeah. I feel like the other interesting thing about that to me is that the idea that the others like supplied them with medicine.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I never even thought about that.
Yeah, I guess they felt the need to address where they got extra medicine from or something.
Yeah, yeah. Like that's kind of, I don't know, that's an interesting detail.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no. Oh no, not.
Oh, Detective Hurley's on the case.
God.
Neil deGrasse Frogert.
Oh,
that's his real name. Neil deGrasse Frogert. Bernie?
Yeah.
These are the kind of scenes that's like, hey, you wanted scenes with red shirts. Yeah, told you it was a bad idea.
Yep. We
don't actually want to see these people talk.
This is like one of the worst characters they ever did. I can't. Yeah. I don't even know why they.
He's to the right of Hurley. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Way to the right.
Yeah, it's like, okay, Hurley's already annoying enough to be likable, and this guy's to the right of that.
Yeah. He's worse than Arzt.
Yep, exactly. Arzt is to the right of Hurley, and Froger's to the right of Arzt, yeah.
Yeah, it's so far, it's like caricature annoying.
Yeah.
These lines, it's like no one says this kind of shit on the show. It's ridiculous.
Like I'm gonna
get close with Sweet Libby. What? Nobody says that.
Sweet livers.
Sweet Libby? No. Get off the show. Oh my God, you need to fire
Nobody. Don't you remember when Sawyer was like, "Hey Jack, if you don't lock it down with sweet K, I'm gonna just."
Oh God.
Yeah, that was too much. So this I remember being the best one.
I remember this one.
Beatrice.
Ooh. Not Jacob again.
I always thought it was weird they had to go outside.
Yeah.
I was expecting to go in another room.
Looks like a pile of birds to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Pile of birds. Oops. Call the authorities.
Yeah. What do you want me to do? Like. It's so weird. That only has significance because of the earlier thing, you know? Otherwise, that would be like.
And they're not actually making that connection because they don't know about
they
the
have
other
no idea.
thing.
Yeah, that's weird.
They have no idea it's a pattern. Yeah, it's like the numbers. Like if you only see the numbers once, it has no significance. Twice, you might catch it. But if you happen to see those numbers, 12 times, then you're going to start to say that means something.
Right,
and that's not necessarily true.
That was the first time for them. They're like, oh, he did this weird bird thing.
It's not a pattern for them. But to us, we go, oh, this happened
exactly.
before.
He called the birds again. Never mind why he's calling birds.
Yeah. Bird call.
Yeah. She's gonna bury her fake
Son
ID.
is burying her ID.
Oh God, that's not a good shovel, son. There you go. That's better with the hands.
Oh, this is when they make love and have the baby, right?
This is that scene. This is the conception for Ji Yeon.
Yep. It was Michael's baby all along.
I'll just point out this is the first time we've seen Michael since the end of season 2 in terms of the chronology. Like,
Oh yeah.
It's the first time they brought him back since then for like a new scene, quote unquote. Oh, and he even sees it. Man, she doesn't do a good job burying secrets.
She never does a good. And she's a gardener.
Yes.
She's got no skill with the soil. How does that work?
That's weird. She's just gonna tell him. Wow, I didn't realize he knew that.
Yeah, that's why in any other story, this would be the romantic moment starting here.
Yeah, you're right.
She talks about how it didn't work out and what she's gonna do, and
yeah. We can have a baby.
They get caught in the net,
Is that a baby doll?
Interpretation alert.
Mm-hmm. I don't even remember her thinking that on the actual show.
I forgot to, yeah. She never seemed motivated by that.
No.
Yeah, she never talked about feeling like she was being punished.
Yeah.
Or they were being punished.
Yeah, I never got that sense.
Yeah, it didn't seem like they always seem practical about it.
Mm-hmm.
Of just like, we just bad luck. We got caught here and we need to just get off.
Let's
and
try to
it'll
leave.
it'll be easy. We just got to do it. Man in Black's like, hello, I'm Vincent now.
I swear Vincent looks different every time.
Yeah.
Because it's a different dog every time. But, it throws me. Because I'm just like, that's not Vincent!
I feel like Man in Black as Christian was in the bushes and he told Vincent to go in a restaurant.
Yeah, I could totally see that. If they have a baby, it'll ruin my loophole.
Exactly.
Don't show the tattoo.
Don't show the tattoo.
We don't need to see it again. Yikes. Don't shush me in the night.
Operation Sleeper. Wow.
Because Jack was sleeping.
There it is.
She's got to talk to the sleeper.
All the S's. Son.
There we go. It's like there has to be another one.
Shannon.
Oh yeah, Shannon. She's dead, but
yeah, she's dead.
If she were alive, she wouldn't trust me.
So how did they? I forget how they addressed that on the show.
I think this happens off screen, and I think that's why they're showing this.
But like, in terms of like how Jack conveys to the group that Juliet told her.
I think they play the tape, and then Jack walks up and he's like, "I know she is. She told me a week ago."
Oh, okay. And this is the scene. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. He's repeating the thing he said earlier. That's how I knew you were one of us.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ruin my dream.
I love that.
I remember. I forgot that's when that line comes in.
Yeah.
Did he? Did he? Don't tell me, did he?
Yeah.
Like, did he what? Did he what? Are you saying was it his idea? Or are you saying literally, did he?
No, was it his idea? I think she knows that Ben's ultimately control what happens on the island. Because she just prefaced that with saying,
right.
I was naive for
Ben would let us leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what she meant. Like, he got that to happen.
Right. And they already insinuated that. But it's just a weird way to phrase it. Like, he still did it, even if...
Like, is the sub actually gone?
Yeah. That's what it felt like. I actually think I've read conspiracy theories online who think Locke didn't blow up the submarine.
That's why he was wet.
Yeah. And like it was just like it looked like an explosion and it was near the submarine, but actually the submarine was fine.
Yeah.
I don't know why the need to have that conspiracy theory, but I think I've seen it.
Because anything's possible.
Much like the Sun and Michael Baby.
Yeah.
Which is actually more plausible in my opinion.
The Watch. Oh, I remember this.
Oh yeah. You're right. The way these are shot is weird.
Yeah.
They're using like a different style.
Yeah, it's like the B camera unit.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Things are gonna get crazy.
Yeah, there's gonna be alcohol there, so you know I'm gonna get down. Before I black out drunk tonight.
I didn't think about that. I guess that's probably what he means.
Before I gamble this, drunken rage.
Right. Really? That nice guy?
Jeez. He's gonna give Jack your shoes.
I know. Ray, come on.
I feel like no scene where somebody's giving somebody else a watch can ever be disconnected from Pulp Fiction.
I agree.
It just he claimed the stamp on that idea, and I feel like everything is just an homage to that, whether it is or not.
Well, this is even like a watch being passed down, father to son, father to son, and that's exactly. So it's even more than just a watch.
Yeah.
But I agree completely.
The
Is that his Kate line?
There's a lot of rocks out here, Dad.
That's weird.
Who? Oh.
His potential kid.
Oh, I see.
I remember at the time thinking like, oh, well, that doesn't matter. He didn't have a kid. Knowing the whole show now, it feels like set up for the Flash Sideways.
Yeah.
Because that's literally the story they go with.
Yeah, well.
Like, my dad did this, but I'm not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I wonder what's going to happen in this one.
Oh, I don't know. The title's elusive. It's probably not Jen having a temper tantrum on the golf course.
Yeah, it's Jack Bender. It seems like the A team, but they use the B cameras.
Yeah, like Hawaii looks kind of boring. Like it's not
Yeah,
as
it's
interesting. Like
flat.
it's
It's weird.
like it's on like a it's on like a cloudy day. You know, they shot this when they couldn't shoot the
Yeah.
main show.
Yeah, you're right. Because we scheduled for today, and we have to do it
There
today.
should have been cloudy days on the island. We never saw them
No,
unless it was raining. You
unless
know.
it was crazy dramatic rain.
Well, he still got the handcuff on.
Yeah.
You hear me, Jacob? No one's ever cared this much about golf.
I know. I know. This is like the most the most golf drama in the history. With pity eyes.
Those pity eyes back in your head.
This is ridiculous.
Go back as a fool.
Oh my god.
You horrible ball.
You horrible ball.
Yeah, this is like 1920s like melodramatic acting, like for silent pictures. And they just threw there for commentary.
Yeah, I feel like because he's not speaking English, he has to go broader to get the emotions across.
Maybe what he's actually saying is more nuanced.
Yeah.
And the translation's super broad.
Yeah, exactly. You horrible ball. What a line.
Horrible ball.
I can't believe we're going back to the muffins.
Wow. You know those muffins were hot.
Wow. Now see, this looks like the show because this is from the show.
This is from the show.
That's that look. That was that look.
Yep.
I love that look.
It looks like a TV show.
It really does.
Doesn't look like a home movie.
Yeah, right. I think this one is actually a deleted scene.
Yeah.
They decided to cut to the other stuff faster instead of doing this, I think.
Yeah, this is like the second time we see this lady, right? Like,
yeah.
This is the I need my plumbing fixed lady.
Yeah, yeah. Amelia, I think. Not that it
matters. Amelia Plumhart.
That was a theory, by the way.
That she was Amelia
She's
Earhart?
actually Amelia Earhart. Yeah, I totally read that.
Oh, yeah, that sounds familiar now. That'd be awesome. If only I had a plane to get out of here with.
Scary music? I need your plane.
She gulped.
Oh, I never tell anyone anything. Oh god, this is getting really dramatic.
Yeah.
Build up. I think the other scenes didn't have music like this.
Yeah, for sure. Classic love.
Oh!
Build up, and the end.
And we don't see it. Yeah. I think that was Ben's X-rays, though.
Ben's X-rays. What else is it gonna be, guys?
That's the obvious answer.
Yeah.
Oh God, we're going back to this?
Why did that mean Big Trouble though?
I have no idea. Cause Ben.
I thought she meant Ben's not gonna let us leave the island ever. But then she's like, well, now we have Big Trouble because he's gonna be sick.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what that means.
All right. Beatrice, right? Yeah, right.
Yeah, this is what I would definitely call a retcon. Like inserting Juliet into season 2.
Yeah.
Like, nah, she was there. Don't worry. She talked to Michael. Come on, you can't tell me she wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
She was there with Walt. She talked to Michael. Come on. And she has to reference Miss Clue, but of course we're not going to see Miss Clue again.
Yeah, totally retcon. Of just here's all the extra info that wasn't really there.
Yeah. See, actually, I didn't even remember this. He knew about Ben.
Yeah.
I got the impression that he just thought Ben was like some other that was captured. Like he didn't really necessarily know any more than that. Yeah, this is some extra stuff that Michael's supposed to be carrying around.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So is this before she wanted to get off the island? So this is before he wouldn't let her leave.
No, I think this is after he wouldn't let her leave.
Because she gets there and she's happy to be there for a while until she's like, came up with nothing.
But it's when she wants to leave that he shows that her sister's life was saved, and that convinces her to stay.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Then she wants to leave again later.
I thought he saved her sister to start with.
No. He just says he's going to. And she's like, I don't even think my sister's alive. And he's like, she is, and I'll prove it, you know.
Yeah, that's kind of extra motivation for Michael to save Ben, that he knows he's the only way off the island.
Which we did not know before.
Oh, jeez. Tropical depression.
Oh, boy.
Starting
not ours.
Ernst.
Is that a fucking spider?
Yep. Just in case you're wondering if he's the one to put him in the jar, yes.
Yes, on screen. He will literally.
And because he's basically just a science teacher, no offense, science teacher, but he's like he's not a knowledge expert on everything.
Mm-hmm.
He might not even know that thing's poisonous.
Right. No, but he explains that it's poisonous. He's the one who.
Oh, that's right.
To Nikki.
I forgot. Yeah. Yeah, here's his confession.
Yeah, this is like.
So this is again like this is the third beat. We talked about this I think off podcast about Lindelof's storytelling style and kind of how it's on Lost but like this is they set up a question, they told you made an opinion about the question, and then now here's the third part of okay, was it real or not?
Yeah.
And they don't always do this part where it's like, no, it was fake. I faked it.
I just made it up. This is also a good example of Lost, like answering the question you really didn't care about anymore.
Yeah.
Like I do remember it floating in the background for a while. Like, what about monsoon season? What about he made such a big deal about it. Where is that? When is that coming? And then years later, they're like, oh, yeah, he just made that up.
Yeah, it's weird to pick that out of all things.
Yeah, like it's not even, I don't know. Like, I feel like at this point, no one's hoping for monsoon season.
Michael's like, I will never talk to you again.
He really wants to leave.
He's like, I hope you were done.
I feel like he should be checking his watch.
Yep.
This is so weird, like making us watch something like Michael's not even remotely interested in.
Yeah. How are we supposed to think about this guy when Michael doesn't even care? Michael's like, this guy's annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the scene where he's like, Art, you're a good guy. Now that we've had a chance to talk to you, I see come off as annoying, but you're really well-meaning, and he is trying to cheer him up now, but it's like, it doesn't validate his personality.
No, it's a little more like, now that I talk to you more, I really don't like
I realize I made a mistake, and I'll never make this mistake again.
Yeah, let's just never speak again.
Yeah.
It would be better. He is less annoying than Frogurt, though.
Oh, for sure, by a whole magnitude.
Yeah.
Arts and crafts. Well, what was the last one called?
No shit.
Why did he gets his name in this one?
Yeah, that's weird.
They couldn't resist. They were just like, we can't say arts and crafts without saying arts and crafts. Yeah, how do you know?
Uh-oh. That was the sun face.
That's the most surprised anyone's ever looked.
That face is lit. Stop looking around, son.
Yeah, she's so.
God.
But
such a giveaway.
I would have played poker with her, right?
God, these are like Arstasodes.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I don't know why they're back to back. They shouldn't have made them back to back.
Yeah, it's too much all at once.
Cause see, this is just after he said I made it up. So now, why are we supposed to like believe anything he? And this
is him being urgent just doesn't. It should have been this one first, if anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god.
Well, hey, he had a smoke monster playing with his mind.
Yeah, cut him some slack.
Trained here.
And they literally reference the smoke monster.
Yeah, wow.
Right away. Like the smoke monster can't go in the caves.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna trip across the jungle now?
Like, I feel like they're safer on the beach from the smoke monster.
Yeah, I guess he thought, well, if the smoke monster's here, I'll be safe with the caves.
Right. Oh, here it comes.
Vincent Vision.
Here, yeah, the Vincent Cam. They didn't go to this very often.
It's so fake looking.
It really is.
No dog sees like this.
No. Aren't dogs colorblind?
Yeah. But not Vincent, it restored his vision to full color.
Of course it did.
Oh, that'd be great. A great crackpot theory. Vincent's the world's first dog to have color vision.
Oh, this is a fake Vincent.
Yeah, that's somebody's puppy.
Yeah.
This is so weird.
Okay, I understand. Unconscious, right.
Check. Wake him up. I got it.
Oh my god. Oh no. Oh no. I'm scared.
So maybe that's actually maybe his work to do for my loophole. I don't know.
That fucking line. And they also like referenced him crying for his daddy in the previous episode.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes it seem like they're tying things together for us.
Yeah.
Like he was there at the beginning, and then he appeared again a couple days later.
What's weird is like Vincent didn't actually need to wake him up.
Yeah, he was already awake.
He was already awake, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was totally not necessary. Okay, well, I think that's the end of episodes.
Well,
so
those are all the missing pieces.
Yeah, now that the missing pieces are there, everything makes sense.
Yep.
So like, what were the big things we learned? I think we learned about Ethan's motivations.
Mm-hmm.
We learned, what else did we learn?
Michael knew Ben was in charge.
Michael knew about Ben, right? That was new. I guess, yeah. I mean, we already knew. They just kind of filled in the gap of Juliet telling Jack that she was, sort of a mole.
Yeah. I'm looking at a list of revelations here, and actually that whole thing about the caves, that line is supposed to signify the fact that Arns was resistant to moving to the caves initially, but changed his mind after hearing the monster. So maybe like there's some gap there that they're trying to retcon.
Right, right. Like, yeah, that convinced him to move to the caves. So like with the last scene, like I feel like it's the weirdest one, and we've talked about it before with the whole speaking to dogs thing. Whatever, it's weird, but that he has work to do really catches me because of the timing. Like I know this was written, even though whatever the timeline is, this was written like right after the season 3 finale, or at least around the same time.
Yeah.
And the season 3 finale is when they have Walt say that, go to, get up, John, we have work to do,
So I just came up with a very plausible, simple explanation for what he means that I never thought before.
I'm ready. Because I was going to like summarize the situation and come to the conclusion that
I've been doing this podcasting for a long time. I got it.
All right.
So I think what he means, like just Occam's razor, what could he mean by that, right? Because I think we immediately want to go to something with his loopholes, something with the grand plan, something with, that mobisode's called So It Begins, which is like the opposite of the end, the last episode. So you think like, okay, this is where the story really starts. So the beginning of stories matter, right? What is he talking about?
Yeah.
I really think he's saying there's a lot of people dying on the beach, and he's a doctor, and he needs to go to work.
Oh, yeah, it can definitely mean that.
Like, Jack needs to go be Jack right now.
Yeah. But why would he even want the people on the beach to be saved?
Because, well, I think the fact that, if he knows Jack as a doctor and he knows anything about Jack, I guess you got to wonder what he knows about Jack at that point. He's calling him his son. He's already in Christian
He's appearing as Christian. I feel like he must know.
Yeah.
Because if he knows who Christian is, he should know who Jack is.
Yeah.
Because I think what happened, right, this was the theory I had, that it's the same thing with Locke. I think he scanned the corpse.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how he knows who Jack is. At least initially.
Yeah.
Because I think he scanned Locke's corpse too, and that's how he knows his dying thoughts and stuff. I think he can like scan dead bodies and get their memories.
Yeah, and appears them. It's a crazy trick.
Yeah, exactly. It is a crazy trick.
Yeah.
But I think that's where he got his information. So he should definitely know Jack's a doctor and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to say it's just one of those lines that seems like it's about something bigger, and it's probably just about. No, the audience knows that as soon as Jack wakes up, he goes to be a doctor.
He's gonna jump into action,
and we're just connecting the dots between those two things.
Yeah.
While giving Christian this connection to the beginning, and kind of setting up the fact that that he is going to be appearing to Jack. And, there obviously was some plan he was trying to communicate to Jack in season 1 that got railroaded, I think, by the others. So I think that kind of still makes sense, where it doesn't necessarily have to be about what his plan is later, after the season 4 stuff,
Right. He might have.
He had some, he was like, well, I'll take Jack, maybe before Locke became a target.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of interesting. That's the kind of stuff this is almost like a scene from my loophole episode.
Yeah.
It's because it's all by itself and we have no other scenes. It's hard to know exactly what it means in terms of the loophole.
Mm-hmm.
But even if he literally means he has work to do, i.e. save the people on the beach, it's still part of that story because it's him inserting himself from the beginning in the saga of the Losties crashing on the beach. And calling it So It Begins, it's like before there was Jack waking up, there was Smoke Monster Christian, right over there.
Yeah, and I think it kind of gives an explanation for like, maybe the we kind of basically say the tree frog was Man in Black, and these animals that show up and do weird things. But from him giving a directive to Vincent, and he could just talk to the animals and send them, and so they're kind of operatives of Man in Black without having to be Man in Black.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. He could just be a really good like whisperer or something. He could just because I was like listening to the words and I'm just thinking like even for someone who doesn't speak English that well, like but is like a human being that understands language. Like some of these words would be a little difficult, Like he's unconscious. Like really unconscious? Must you say unconscious?
I feel like he only spoke verbally for the audience.
Yeah.
And he's somehow telepathically sending. Maybe he's just sending visuals to Vincent's mind.
Right, something he would understand.
Directing him where to go. And, landmarks or something.
Which is a crazy power. I mean,
is it?
Add it to the list of like crazy powers that Man in Black has. Like
that he used casually.
Yeah.
And, like, didn't really seem to investigate.
Didn't acknowledge openly.
Do you really want to give that up?
Yeah.
And they really could have made a case that if he gets out into the real world, he'll have countless dead bodies to scan.
Yeah.
And he could, what if he scanned the body of Elvis or something, and he just decides I'll be Elvis now.
He could do that.
And I'll make a ton of money being Elvis again.
And it was really convincing because he'd have all of his like real memories.
Yep. You could not disprove he was Elvis.
Yeah.
And he could just do that with countless famous people and really wreak havoc.
Yeah. That would be totally crazy. I can't imagine. If they had even insinuated that would have been interesting. like specifically, because obviously they never said exactly what the problem was with getting off, It would be interesting if someone actually speculated about that,
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Like the bad effects of his specific powers, the ones they actually knew about, hearing as dead people. But yeah, I feel like we are invited to, even though it's loose because it's just a phrase, but I feel like using that phrase, he has work to do, makes the connection between Christian and Walt. At the end of season 3. And so, like, it suggests that that's the same entity, and that's something that he says.
Yeah, for sure.
And I feel like I didn't necessarily put that together at the time. Like, what that means for Walt.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, I kind of took Walt as being Walt. And in retrospect, it just makes no sense. But, of course, we hadn't seen Walt again.
Well, because Walt wasn't dead.
Right.
So we didn't think it fit the pattern. I mean, it doesn't.
And it kind
That's why they did it.
But we hadn't seen him again yet, and so it isn't until you see him again that you realize he has no clue. Like he's not going to be like, "Hey, Locke, go kill Naomi and then report to the cabin." Like whatever. Like he's not going to say that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He doesn't have the first clue what's going on.
Yeah, and there's that idea I think you have, that hope you have, that he would actually Walt would actually be invested in what's going on the island, and he's not.
No.
At all.
No, not even a little bit. It's
Yeah, I think we want him to be Danny from The Shining.
Yes.
We want him to be the kid with powers who.
That's the story they tried to write, and then just abandoned.
He's key to the mystery that's going on.
Yeah, and the others want him. I mean, that's the same, like as the hotel wanting him because of his powers, and like they're totally going in that direction, and then they just abandon it,
Yeah, because he grew too fast.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's really the problem. The Shining was shot in a shorter time frame, and so it was just easier to have him stay the same age. But yeah, And they didn't want to recast or whatever, you know.
I think we could have lived with it. I think there's suspension of disbelief, you know. I mean, obviously they didn't really show the footage around that time, but I mean, he was noticeably different when we did see him years later. But
yeah,
I think it would have been, people would have been like, oh yeah, this is a TV show. I remember now. Okay, back to Lost. You know, like it wouldn't have been. It's not like he was playing a 5-year-old and he looks 15. You know, like he was. It didn't. I think it would have been fine. You know.
It's interesting. They were really. I think they were really averse to recasting because they never did it. If an actor wanted to leave, their character was killed off.
No, I mean, they could have just had him stay on the show.
Oh, just let it.
And we just realized that's just life. That kid actors grow, and I don't think it would have been that distracting.
Right.
We could have just that's what I meant. Like we could have just dealt with.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Not recast with the younger.
Yeah, not recast. No, because that's what I was saying. Like it'd be different if he was supposed to play really, really young. But you know, he would have looked around the same age. He just would have been taller, you know, which I think is fine. Right. Like we get it. This is a whole year passed since you guys were filming. Like we've seen TV before.
Like Carl on Walking Dead.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he's like huge now compared to what he used to be. And I don't know if the timeline. I mean, they do have time go by, obviously, so it kind of is a little easier to make it work than it is on Lost, which is like months, you know, time frame. But also they don't really pay attention to the time that much, so it kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah, you know? On Lost they're literally numbering the days.
Right. But I do think they could probably get away with it. I mean, you know, they get away with people like shaving their armpits and stuff, so it's just like, you know, he's growing, so we'll just deal with it.
Dharma brand armpit shavers, come on.
Yeah, but I do think I mean, I guess a lot of shows don't recast. But it never really occurred to me that that's something they just were unwilling to do, you know, because I'm thinking about how like Game of Thrones did a big recast, and it was really distracting and weird.
Yeah, it was.
You know, and so I can understand not wanting to do it, you know, but sometimes if you really want a character, I don't know, you like Mr. Echo or something, you know, they could have recast instead of let him die. You know, but it would have been weird. It would have been different.
Yeah, it's always different. They did that with Spartacus. Like it's always different.
Right. Well, you can't lose Spartacus from Spartacus the show.
Yeah, that's a bit much.
What are they gonna do? Yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, I guess the real test would have been if you know Jack or Locke, you know, some huge main character wanted to leave. You know. If they would have recast or if they actually would have tried to write the show without Jack. You know?
I think it depends on how long it's gone on, how long the character's been there too, because with Spartacus it was just the first season with the first actor. It wasn't like 3 seasons or 5 seasons, and then you have to like, I think that's a difficult, you know, even with the character in Game of Thrones, like we had only seen him I think 1 season.
Yeah, he was just in the.
And then it was like, if you're going to ever recast, you got to do it after the first season. Like the second, it's even an uphill battle to be like, well, you've had twice as much time with this guy, now we're gonna recast. It's, you know, at a certain point, I think if you have Jack in season 4 wanting to leave, or even 3, I think you probably kill him off.
Yeah.
You know, that's too much time to just try to get the audience on board with somebody else.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. But it would be weird because it feels like also like the deeper you go in the show, the more you're committed to that character, and killing them off, you know, has a bigger impact.
That's why there's these things called contracts.
Oh, is that where that comes in?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh,
that's how you deal with that. You plan in advance with the law.
Okay. Well, that helps. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Obviously, they were locked in. So, I mean, something bad could have happened. I mean, on Spartacus, like, it was, like, health problems, you know, and that's in that case, you just have to deal with it, you know, even if they're under contract. But, you know, I guess under normal circumstances, the contract's enough.
So apparently we learned Arndt was in Australia to meet a woman he met on the internet.
Oh yeah, that was the part I wasn't listening. I felt like Michael in that scene.
Yeah, and I feel like that sounds like the kind of thing that's a lie.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's so pathetic. It just sounds like you're just even making that up, dude.
Yeah, yeah. Your reason is even more pathetic than that, probably.
Yeah, exactly. What's yeah. What's even more pathetic than that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what that would be, but yeah. Yeah. I don't really. It's the kind of thing that doesn't feel real because first of all, it's a scene about him admitting to being a liar. And second of all, it's all off screen, so it just feels kind of
it's like it's like the psychic. It's like the psychic thing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That is what it's like. It's the same that's the same, it's almost the same scene.
Yeah, it's the totally same scene. It's like, okay, here's the time when we'll let the person say they were a fraud.
Yeah.
And barely counts.
Yeah. I'm a fraud, and that's why you can believe me now.
Yep.
What?
Now I'm going to tell you the truth that I was lying. It's like, okay, I don't know if I should trust you.
Yeah, and it's like, and then they're like, we told you the psychic was a fraud. Like, why didn't you, It's like, well.
Of course he was defrauding you when he was telling you the truth. He's a fraud. That's what we said.
Yeah. It's just like, why did you think that was going to work? I mean, in the Arst case, it's pretty harmless.
It's the scorpion and the frog parable, right? It's of course, when the frog wants to cross the river and the scorpion, he's like, I'll get on my back, I'll take you, when he stings him anyway. It's like, yeah, of course I was gonna do that.
Yeah, exactly.
What did you expect?
I didn't need to know why he was in Australia. I mean,
no one actually cared.
Yeah, like I guess Michael didn't care. Like I guess
it wasn't even an interesting now, if they had said if they had alluded that the woman was someone interesting, that would have been cool.
Right? Yeah, they could have done that. But yeah, seemingly it was just whatever person.
Or if he was like, I was looking to meet a woman about adopting a baby.
Oh yeah.
Which would have been weird, but at least tie into something interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, it's weird. It's not like Ethan's thing where it sort of ties into something we might care about,
Yeah, it explains his own motivation as a character. That's actually important.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this doesn't really tell us anything about him, except that he's kind of pathetic.
Yeah, I feel like that's what they should have done is, they get to the first part of him admitting he's a fraud, but he doesn't actually say, why he operates that way and, why he's such a weird guy.
Yeah.
Basically, what his major malfunction is,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they don't seem to care about him that much. I mean, even the way they write the scene makes it feel like, even as the audience, we're not supposed to care about him very much.
That's the problem is they make Michael, they tell us how to think about this by Michael's reaction. And if Michael was really interested, we would have been really interested.
Yeah, scenes like that are weird. There's a scene like that in the X-Files where Scully's talking to someone, on a case, and she's standing there half listening, her eyes are wandering, she's tapping her foot, she looks at her watch a couple times, and it's like, wow, are we supposed to listen? She clearly doesn't give a shit. It was crazy. And I was it's a weird scene to show, because the audience is supposed to be engaged in general. And by telling them that the character you're identifying with isn't engaged, it's a weird, I don't know, it puts you in a weird position.
Yeah, it's why, if they're in the scene.
Yeah, exactly.
If you don't care, why am I supposed to care?
And I mean, I feel like we are way more connected with Michael than we are Arst,
Yeah.
So we're going to identify with him more so than Arst, whatever his deal is, He seems like the reasonable one.
Yeah, I'm reading this thing, his explanation about the Australian woman. It is really pathetic. He used his friend's picture, and he shows up, and she blows him off at dinner, and Yeah, and then he's like,
don't
fine.
use someone else's picture and then fly to Australia. Come on.
Yeah, no, he regrets that now.
I hope
so. Because he was like, you know what, I did this. I booked an early flight, so I changed my flight, and wouldn't destiny have it, I got on A15.
Yep, I'm pretty soon I'm gonna get dynamite.
Yep, and I'm gonna blow up.
Yep. Oh man. Yeah, it's so weird. And then they go back to him. It's almost like, did they get like a 2-for-1 on that actor or something? Like I don't understand why they felt the need to use Arth.
Arth is too much.
Yes. It is. Like, at least they didn't have 2 Frogurt episodes, you know? It's just like, I don't... And then they put him in the title. It's just like... If one of your episodes is called Arts and Crafts, like that
you don't get an Arts episode and call it Arts and Crafts and have a second Arts episode.
Exactly. Yeah. That's your Arts episode and you're done. That's it.
You're done, guys. Yeah.
That's the one where he talks to Michael and that's it.
Yeah.
Like they didn't need him in that other scene.
This is the scene. This is the one. Arts and Crafts is the one where he's being regular Arts, and then the other one is where he's trying to show this new side. That we didn't need to see. Like, it doesn't matter. That's like if Frogurt had a scene like that, where it's like, okay, here's Frogurt, the sensitive guy,
right?
And he's gonna kind of half explain, like, you know, his backstory and why he's so obnoxious.
And I just act like that because
because I have abandonment issues and I don't want people to leave, so I yell at them and I mean, it'd be like, I don't care, dude. Yeah, no.
And like, in middle school, this girl dumped me, and her name was Sweet Libby, and
Sweet Libby. Yeah, 1B though. It was 1B, but nevertheless, I still have
1B. Isn't that Libby?
It's still pronounced the same.
Okay. I don't know. It looks like Libby.
Isn't lib L-I-B when you add lib?
Oh, yeah. I guess so. Yeah. Ad lib.
English is whatever you want it to be.
Okay, fair enough. No, but I feel like putting the vowel after makes it Libby. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but Y is only a vowel sometimes.
Okay, it's not a vowel that time. Fair enough.
Yeah.
That rule does.
Well, like Lily, right? Lily.
Yeah, it's Lily when it's 1L. No, okay, you're right.
Yeah, you met a lot of Lileys.
Lily. Yeah, fair enough. I got it. I'll buy it now. Libby with one B.
But yeah, so these are interesting, but again, they really, it's kind of take it or leave it. Like, there's not a lot that really changes anything. It doesn't matter at this point. I think that's the other bad thing about these is none of this there's nothing like, oh wow, well, that changes everything. You know, it's right. It fails on that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in terms of the long-term stuff, the most interesting one is actually the thing about like Jack having a son.
Mm-hmm.
You know, since they actually go back to that like way the fuck later.
Yeah.
Like it makes that line seem. I don't even think they necessarily, because it's kind of an obvious thing. I mean, it's a trope even.
Well, no, I mean, and that's why they have it in both places because it's integral to his character. I mean, they know that's the kind of thing that he would want to hear and think about and be conscious of how he would treat his son. They know Jack has thought of that, but you know, especially with him and Sarah and all that stuff. So like, yeah, it makes sense that they would have that scene.
Yeah, exactly. And
it was awkward too because it was pretty clear Jack didn't want to get married,
right?
And it was clear Christian didn't want him to get married.
Yep.
And they were like, "Oh yeah, wedding. Yeah, you shouldn't be in there deciding where the flowers go because it doesn't matter." Like,
yeah.
It was. You know, usually those kind of scenes are like the dad pepping up the son to get married, and it was just kind of like
Yeah.
there's this unspoken thing going on there of just like this is a bad idea.
So I think they have the scene you're talking about in the actual show. I think
Yeah.
I remember a scene with Jack like with his feet in a pool or something, and Christian comes
Yeah.
up and
Yeah, I
sort
feel
of
like it's
talks
this
him.
night or something, you know.
Yeah.
Like the night after that, the scene in the mobisodes.
Yeah. I mean, the way he talks him into it was kind of weird. It's like you got to marry her because that's what you do or something. Because you value commitment or something, and that's why you should marry her. You know, like it was some weird abstract like here's why you should marry her because of your like general commitments, not necessarily specifically.
He was basically saying like you wouldn't be you unless you marry her.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Bad idea. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is just
so
like
you gotta do it to be true to yourself, even if it's a bad idea. That's so weird.
It's really weird. But it kind of, I don't know, that based on where that story goes, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, maybe he's like, Jack, you'll never forgive yourself if you don't marry her, and you always would have been. So even if it's a bad idea in the short term, it's a good idea in the long run for you to just follow your commitment, so that because worse than following a commitment that turns out to fail is never committing for Jack. You know?
Yeah, right, and just worrying about what might have been. You know. Yeah, that makes sense. I agree. That's sort of the subtext of that scene, and I think I don't know. It's weird. Like putting aside again animal talking, all the weirdness. The scene bothers me a lot less, the Christian Vincent thing, like than it did before. It doesn't seem. I remember it really bothering me, and I don't even remember why. Like,
well, you've had more time to make peace with him operating as Christian and Man in Black and the whole loophole, and
I guess so. I guess
it's not crazy to think he did this.
Yeah, it doesn't seem that, but I remember it at a certain point being like, well, what was that about? That doesn't make any sense, and I don't even know why I was so worked up about it. It actually even felt to me like juxtaposing the smoke monster in the previous one with that, like suggested the link.
Yeah, it's like he's hanging out in the jungle listening to them, figuring out when he can, make his play, when Jack's alone, when he can appear to him, like. Yeah. I feel like that loophole centric episode you want. I feel like a lot of that, 20% of that is him just hiding in the jungle,
listening in.
He's dropping on people.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of crouching behind trees.
That's definitely what I envisioned.
Yeah.
Like at least part of it. I mean, I would want to see him doing stuff sometimes, but yeah, gathering the intel and like figuring out like who the people are and what to do with them was definitely a big part of.
Perhaps making lists.
Perhaps he might have made some lists. They might have just been mental lists. Who knows? Yeah. But yeah, exactly. I mean, it's weird. I just don't. I mean, I guess it was really just about the way they use Christian in general. I guess that was the thing that bothered me. But it isn't about what happens in this specific like little episode. Like I think I just got frustrated and confused with his role in the overall story. Because he's basically the first Locke,
Yeah.
Like he gets to be the sort of main avatar for the smoke monster for a while. And I think I just had trouble dealing with that, together with what he does later and also Christian's role like at the end. Yeah. Felt like that didn't mesh so well. I mean, maybe that's part of why they didn't want to show Christian Man in Black in season 6. Like, it would have been harsher because you were already talking about everyone seeing Locke, as a smoke monster. It would have been even worse if, and the guy leading us in, he's a smoke monster too.
Yeah, and then you leave the audience thinking, well, they're following the smoke monster into the afterlife. That's bad. So they're going to hell. Okay, so it was purgatory, and now they're all going to hell. Oh, I get it. Okay.
Yeah. It wouldn't be that unreasonable. And the fuckers, they even make that connection because they have Jack find the empty coffin.
Yeah.
Like they specifically draw that, like that link where it's like, but no, that was the.
And I feel like the empty coffin might just be Man in Black being really practical and saying, if I take over somebody's dead body, I'm gonna hide that body so that people don't have evidence that I'm not who I'm trying to be.
No, that is what it is. But I'm saying that the empty coffin in the Flash Sideways.
When do you mean?
At the very end, like he because his father's coffin was lost.
Oh yeah.
And eventually it gets delivered, to that church, and like at the final scene, he walks in, goes to the coffin, and he opens it up and it's empty.
Yeah.
And then Christian comes up behind him, and it's like, it's weird to recall the Man in Black deception, which is what you're saying. Like, he basically just took the body and put it somewhere else to make Jack think that he had come back to life.
Yeah.
It's weird to recall that in the final moments of the series when that was the Man in Black's, attempt to manipulate and deceive him. Like, I just, it throws me. And I think that gets at, like, the weird thing about Christian to me. That line between he's Man in Black and he really is Christian.
Well, I think part of it is the practicality of they're not going to have Jack open the casket and Christian's lying in there dead and then like pops his eyes open.
Right. Well,
and like goes, hey son.
Right.
I think, I feel like the coincidence between those two scenes and those two ideas is because of how they write the show more than like what the two different contexts are. Like, I wouldn't necessarily link them. I think it's really like, seeing the numbers and saying that means it's a pattern, like, I think it's more like they know they did that on the show. So that's why they're kind of recalling it, because it's a familiar visual, but then if you say, well, does that mean he's Man in Black? I think that's not necessarily the case.
Right. I mean, I'm sure that's not what it means. It's just, yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. It's just like a kind of unfortunate coincidence. But, I mean, they have Man in Black, wake up my son, tell my son I said hello. There's this weird, he's using the Christian avatar to people who don't even really know who he is. At least sometimes. And
I think they could totally have, made Christian Man in Black at the end of the church. Like, he could have pulled a Michael Jackson Thriller and like winked at the camera at the end, and his eyes turn yellow, and it freeze frames, and it's like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And that's how he wins the chess game, is
right.
He finally gets all the losties dead in the afterlife, all together, and now this is what he wanted the whole time.
Yeah, I guess that's the like.
I mean, you really can't disprove it, right? You really can't disprove that's not him. And it's almost like, well, again, like we said, like, why wouldn't he get a flash sideways? And who knows if he can change his shape in the flash sideways?
Right.
So that could have been Christian as Man in Black, and the loophole is complete. I definitely think you
can't disprove that.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah. I mean, how can you? The show. I mean, the situation is already so crazy. Like, how are we gonna prove anything in that environment?
Yeah.
But it's weird. I definitely think they walked that line. I even get the sense that Christian, I don't know. Like, there's like this one half of me that feels like all the signs are pointing to Christian being the smoke monster.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this other part of me that thinks like that. Also, there's a lot of signs saying like, no, it really is Christian, and he's in this for some reason.
You mean at the church scene?
No, like in the show.
Oh, in the show,
on the
yeah.
island and stuff. But I mean, in the church is an extension of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's.
What makes you think he's Christian?
The comments. Say hello to my son. Go wake up my son. Like saying these things to people who have no idea who he is.
Well, but that's part of the game, right? He has to stay in character regardless of what those people know.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And yeah, I mean, his interest in Claire, like all those things sort of, they work both ways. It's like, well, he's interested in, he's using the form because he wants to use Claire, not necessarily the other way around,
Yeah.
So, yeah, right. To sell it, he has to do that. But it's weird. It comes across. I guess the one that really throws me is you can go now, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Why
would that be Christian?
Well, there's no particular reason why it'd be Christian, but it's hard for me to imagine it being the Man in Black, I guess.
Oh, I see.
And his role there is kind of like what he does in The Flash Sideways.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, but it's also kind of like Smokey judging Echo.
True.
Where it's like, you go look at it as him saying, you've made up for whatever, you can actually leave the island now for real, not, not get trapped on it in the spirit world, Michael, but actually leave now. You can look at it as him saying that because he's about to die.
Right.
And that would have been kind of interesting, like secret message right before he dies of like, okay, don't hold on to this life or whatever.
Oh yeah.
That's
interesting. Yeah, especially because he actually sees the dead people, and so he has some awareness that they exist. And so maybe on some level he perceives that as being a thing. That's weird though. That seems like he's trying to help him.
Well, yeah, and he has read his mind, so he knows what guilt he has about what things.
Right.
And he's scanned enough people to know and probably have seen the correlation between who gets stuck on the island and not to kind of go, well, if you're carrying this big guilt, this will keep you here.
Yeah.
Or whatever the situation is. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's more like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But it's definitely a crazy thing to do on the show is have one character be another character and not know for a while and
right.
And then do it again.
They did it a few times.
Yeah.
It was they went to that trick. And even though they had done it before, I still didn't realize when they did it again.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I don't know. It's really just because, like, when he's Locke, he plays it differently, at least initially. He seems so much more tangible.
Yeah.
There's this weird, elusive, like, ethereal quality to his apparitions before that. It's like, you don't really imagine, and I don't even know what we're supposed to imagine in terms of the way he passes his time, but you don't really imagine them just like sitting out there in the jungle somewhere. It feels like they sort of just appear and then vanish.
Yeah.
Whereas Locke is just really there. He's just stuck there the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Of course, they tell us that he's stuck being Locke, so I mean maybe there's something different about the way he appears as Locke, but
yeah, that doesn't make any sense. He's stuck being Locke.
It really doesn't. It definitely reads to me like just a practical decision.
Yeah, and maybe it's just not true.
It could also just not be true.
Yeah.
But he chooses to stay that way, or maybe he thinks he's stuck, and that's the only reason he's.
Well, he just almost has to say that no matter what avenue they would have tried to take, he has to just get out the question of, well, why can't you just change your shape? Why do you have to keep looking like Locke?
Yeah.
Look like Groucho Marx or something. Like,
yeah.
Like why go change, And so I think they had to say that if they're going to keep him as Locke for any extended time, they kind of have to say that.
Yeah, exactly. And they have Alana say it, which is like, I don't even know why she would know that. I mean, even if Jacob told her, even if Jacob's like, and he will be stuck as Locke after he kills me, how would he even know that? Like, it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the whole thing doesn't really. There's no sense.
How would they know what would happen after Jacob dies if they haven't experienced what happens after Jacob dies?
Exactly. Yeah. Why would he even have a prediction about that? I feel like Jacob would be more likely to know than Alana, and I don't see why Jacob would know at all.
Mm-hmm.
So
he did have some weird stuff when he died about how long he'd be around and all that weird stuff, but then half of that seemed like a sham when he was telling Jack to, when he was doing the leader, passing the baton to Jack. That seemed like completely made up, like crap of like the saying and, well, now you're the leader, Jack. It's like placebo effect,
Right. Yeah. It's almost like if, I don't know, it's a cross between the placebo effect and, well, I guess, you know what? That's a question. Okay, here's the main thing with Jacob where I would say something happened is that, he lived for so long.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that you've brought up is the idea that actually that would happen to everyone on the island. It's just that we don't see, everyone die. There's so much killing and, violence going on. Like, no one gets to actually live that long.
Yeah.
To sort of test out that theory.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because that's the only, as far as I can tell, that's the only like really tangible thing.
And look at Richard, right? He's suspect number 2.
Right.
Or subject number 2, and he's lived a long time and not aged. And there was a coincidence where Jacob touched him during that conversation, but who's to say it wouldn't have happened anyway? Because that's just what happens on the island.
Right. Yeah, it's weird. And I mean, when Richard arrives, like everyone else is dead, so it's like no one can be alive on the island as long as him.
Yeah.
So it becomes a really hard thing to test. Anyway, what I was just thinking, like, what can I really pin down with him? And I came to the conclusion, like, what if the island protector isn't really a thing? Like, you know what I mean? I mean, does it have to even be a thing? I mean, is it just, I declare you the island protector, and then the next person says it to the next person, and they just kind of believe that's, you know what I mean? They assume that role, but there isn't some, I don't know, some supernatural thing that happens to them when they become the protector, you know what I mean? That endows them with powers.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the question, but then you have to answer the question of, like, well, how does Jacob have powers then? If that's not real magic, then how do you explain his real magic?
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is, like, what were his powers?
Well, he seemingly was able to appear at random places at will.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
He knew things about people.
True.
He built an invisible lighthouse that could peer into houses thousands and thousands of miles away.
Okay, well, that's something.
That could just be good old-fashioned high-tech science.
Could be.
Who knows what nanomaterials he developed?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe he's just a time traveling scientist from the future.
He's an engineer. Yeah, exactly. I told you it was a spaceship all along. Knew that island was a time spaceship.
Okay. So the lighthouse.
He seemingly, now again, there's two columns. There's what did we know he did that seems like a real thing, and then what did it appear that he did.
Right.
There's a lot more of you infer things. He's at the right place at the right time. He saved Sayid from getting,
right.
like, so there's that kind of stuff. There's knowing the 316 stuff and getting the people on the plane and knowing that was gonna, so we talked about that before. Like, what could he have known if he was just a time traveler? Like, if he just knew the future,
right?
He could plan some of that stuff, and that would sufficiently look like magic.
Right.
I think building the time, building the lighthouse it's a pretty significant, like, what WTF.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a big one. It's hard to ignore that. But who built it? He didn't build it by himself, presumably.
Well, yeah, and did he? Yeah.
And how did he know how to build it? You know what I mean? Who did he tell? Like,
well, okay, so that goes back to the original question of, like, is the island protector a real thing?
Yeah.
Is it whatever you think is true is true. If you think the island's healing you, it's healing you. If you think the island is punishing you, it's punishing you. That's an idea that should be on the show, because that's the crux of interpretation.
Yeah.
So it would make sense if, like, well, the island just has power and you manipulate that power through your thoughts and emotions, and if you think this is your prison and you're trapped here forever, then you'll never leave, like Michael.
Right.
If you think that you should get off the island and you're destined for something else, you will, like Desmond. Like, or whatever. So, like, it's kind of hard to tell. I think I would say that, Jacob only became the leader because Mother made him and, sort of said, you're going to do it.
Right.
And I guess, to me, one of the, even a question before that is, why does Jacob think the island has power? Besides the light cave, like, what is he, why does, so even if he, let's say the idea is he manifests these powers or something just by thinking, well, what if I just want to go visit a candidate and I think about their location, if, can I teleport there? Is that part of my magic arsenal? Like, why would he even think to even conjure something up?
Right.
What has he seen that's magical?
Yeah. I mean, in my mind, all he really saw was the smoke monster.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he threw his brother into the cave and the smoke monster came out. I feel like that's like the, in terms of on screen, that's the most magical thing we've seen him witness.
So yeah, I mean, what's the inception of the idea that he has powers as protector of the island?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's Mother, because she says, I made it so you can never hurt each other, and that sort of insinuates she has some weird ability to, like,
she can make things happen
just by sheer will. I can force you not to be able to do certain things.
And that's supposed to be what, I guess, maybe is what's happening with Jacob Man in Black, right? Is somehow by his presence he's keeping Man in Black on the island.
Right. Yeah. That's what it seems like. Just sheer willpower. Because,
which doesn't make any sense.
No.
Like, why wouldn't it be the energy in the light cave that's keeping him there, and what he has to do is extinguish it, and then once it's gone, the force field is down, so to speak, and then he can leave. Why is it? Okay, there is a light cave energy thing, and there's a manipulator on top of that called the Island Protector. And I mean, it makes sense that they humanize the catalyst for this thing, right? Like, making it a person is a good idea, but making it solely to, it's, again, a smaller version of this is the temple and Dogen. It's not just the Ash that is powering it. Now they're like, okay, we have a manipulator on top of that. We have Dogen.
Yeah.
And he's part of that. And it's weird, that's a pattern they have about like combining those two things.
Yeah.
Combining the mysterious thing with a person.
Yeah.
And then you're not sure how to take what that really means. Is it them or is it the thing?
Right. How do they combine?
Mm-hmm.
Which one's really doing the work? Like,
yeah,
what percentage? It's really, it's totally vague, and it doesn't even seem like, on screen, like, Dogen, Jacob, neither one of them really specifies, like, what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Here's how I'm keeping the Man in Black out. Here's how I'm keeping the Man in Black on the island. Like, it's just, they just seem to know, like, well, he can't come in here. And
speaking of Dogen, what's he doing all this time that Ben is like lollygagging around in season 3 and doing like back surgery and kidnapping the Losties and like what Dogen's just hanging out at the temple twiddling his thumbs?
Yeah, good question. I think we are supposed to believe that.
Well, I'm not sure. He's wrapped up in the nature of good and evil, and Ben can't care less,
Right. Yeah, it's a little hard to swallow.
That's actually an interesting thing, right? That Ben's preoccupation, even though he's more or less from the island, he knows the island has powers. He's seen the smoke monster. He knows this crazy stuff. He's not actually invested in that. He's actually more invested in the practical matters of accumulating social influence and power and material goods.
Yeah.
And gaining power and not really he's like the opposite of Widmore. They kind of overlap in that they're both like these businessmen who have these practical considerations with people as obstacles, but Widmore ultimate goal is the mysterious parts of the island, and Ben doesn't actually care about that. And I think that's what makes that little part weird where he comes back to the island. He's like, I need to get judged. I'm like, since when did you care?
Right. Yeah.
Because he's never like, we need to organize the island. We need to organize the others into this group of people who are going to like dig deep into the island's mysteries and really solve this and really know what we're protecting here and really get at the heart of this. And and that could have been an interesting foil, his gripe with Jacob. He's like, listen, Jacob, I followed you, I did everything you told me to do, but you're content to just sit here and protect this place instead of finding out like what's really going on here.
Right.
The idea that he wants to take the others in a different direction, but that's assuming Jacob cared about them, which he didn't. And so that's a different show, but it's weird. It's weird. You would think that Ben would be like Locke, trying to investigate what's really going on.
Yeah, it really just hit me that, his whole beef at the end with Jacob and all that is like how committed he was to the island and to Jacob, and how he's, disappointed that he wasn't shown more, favor or whatever because of that. But I'm thinking back and I'm realizing that the only times where he really sort of talks about the island in terms of being interested in it and its powers and stuff, or when he's manipulating people.
Yep, when he's using it to influence people. Oh, you want to get off the island? Well, I know some powers about the island, and that'll help you. Or, oh, you want to know the secrets of the island? Well, I know all the secrets. I can tell you everything you want to know. Like,
yeah. That's even what he's doing in this scene with Jack, the chess scene,
Yep.
He's like, hey, the island won't let you leave if you don't want, you know what I mean? Like,
I know things about the island, yeah.
I don't even know if he, there is some truth to that, as you pointed out, but I don't even know if he believes that himself, or if he's just saying that because, he's trying to manipulate Jack,
Well, it's one of those self-fulfilling prophecies, right? If Jack never can leave, then Ben was right.
Right.
And at the moment Ben is proven wrong, he's like, well, they changed the rules, or oh, I knew it would be different this time, like he's gonna be winning every time. And so it's like even whether it's right or wrong, he'll be right.
He can always say, "See,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I was talking about."
Or it was a metaphor, right?
Right. Oh yeah, that's a second. It's a metaphor, Sean. Get over it. Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. Because I feel like there's what he says, and then there's what they show us, and they don't quite line up. I'm not clear how committed he is.
Yeah, he's so committed to Jacob, yet he never once tries to go see him.
Yeah.
After all this stuff goes down.
And see, like, they try to tell us in his big speech, they try to tell us that he was asking to see Jacob, like, all the time, and he was just denied, you know, and to me, that's problematic. I feel like if that's true, they should have shown us that.
Yeah.
You know, I guess the way the story is written, like, it's a bit of a mess because they want us to believe he does know about Jacob for, like, quite some time. And it's really only like deep in season 5, right before they're going to do the big switcheroo, that they reveal that he never even talked to him. So it's like, if they had shown those scenes before, then we would have known that about him way earlier.
Yeah.
And it sort of would have changed, because like that's another reveal in that story. You know, we didn't actually even know that for sure before.
Know what?
That he never talked to Jacob.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was a huge reveal. And you know, he did sacrifice Alex and to fulfill whatever agenda he thought made sense.
Right.
But yeah, it just comes.
But was that for the island, or was that for, you know, himself?
Yeah. What's the difference?
I feel like, yeah, I think that's the thing. It's sort of like for him, it's the same thing.
Were you quoting Jacob in that? I feel like that should have been Jacob's line, you know.
Yes.
Well, Ben, was that for me or was that for you?
Yeah. And that would have been plausible, you know, because I think that's a reasonable question to ask. And, you know, I don't think the show, you know, totally defines, you know, how much that's true, but you can easily have that question because he's, you know, definitely one of the most manipulative characters on the show in terms of, like, you know, trying to get people to do what he wants and get what he wants in general. So it does, you're right, it totally feels like I want to go get judged is a left turn for that character. And I guess they want that. I guess they want, that's part of his arc that they want to have for him, that he becomes less selfish.
Yeah.
You know? Going forward, and like, but it's a little awkward. I feel like that comes at a weird time. You know, like he just gets back to the island, and now.
Yeah, even killing Widmore's men was supposed to try to be a nice thing because he's keeping the Losties safe.
Keeping it safe. Yeah. I mean, that's what he said.
Which is like, that's what, hopefully he thinks that's what Jacob wants.
Yeah.
Because they're supposed to go back to the island or whatever. So It's like, he's, you know, he can make his case that he was operating in Jacob's best interest, but like, there's still a lot of evidence, you know, but he still wasn't, I guess that's for him, it just stopped there, you know, where, you know, it's interesting that, you know, yeah, it's interesting that some of the other bigger mysteries didn't catch his attention, I think. You know, the fact that there's a donkey wheel you turn and, like, it moves the island and, like, you know, a lot of that stuff he seemed like he wasn't surprised.
Yeah. He knew about it. And yeah, he was totally not. He wasn't he was just like, yeah, it's the standard donkey wheel.
Yeah, every island has a donkey wheel. Do you know anything about islands?
You go to the donkey wheel chamber and you turn the donkey wheel and then you wake up in Tunisia. Hello. Like it was so, it was like, and that was part of selling Ben as he knows it all. He's got this under control. He knows the secrets, you know, and it really makes you feel like he's guarding this information that, you know, that you'll find out someday, you know, and it's only later you realize, like, but then it raises the question about that stuff, that, like, what does he think about that stuff?
Yeah.
You know, like isn't that really weird? Like what? Any reaction? Like it's strange, you know. You got a smoke monster summoning chamber. The smoke monster judges you. Like, isn't that weird as fuck?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're just gonna kind of be.
Well,
like,
he saw his dead mother in the jungle when he was a kid, so weird for him is
right,
going to be a little different than weird for
right,
everybody else. I
true.
guess to me the question isn't whether or not he thought it was weird. It's just more of like, why didn't that motivate him,
Or
or
just
how did
be
that
interested
motivate
in
him?
it, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, he
it
doesn't
seemed
have to
like,
think it's
oh,
weird.
here's another weird thing. Like, no, that's weird that there's another weird thing.
But I do think, yeah, I think him seeing his mom was also something they should have followed up on.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a bit of a loose end.
A missing piece.
I would call that a missing piece. I feel like that belongs in the loophole episode.
Yeah.
But because they didn't really tie it together, I feel like there's something there. You know, even the Man in Black, you know, himself sees his dead mother. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Him doing that to Ben. I mean, it feels like there's something there.
Yeah, I wonder they could have had a scene where like it's before it's before the plane crash, and they're in the barracks and Ben sees his dead mother, and she says something about like a challenger coming,
Oh God.
like he's gonna come and he's gonna want to lead, don't let him, or something like
Yeah.
up against Locke basically.
Yeah.
And so that's why Ben's like super on point when the plane crashes and he's ready for it. It's
Right.
like, oh, this is the premonition that my mom told me about.
Yeah. Yes, that would have been great. That would have been great. That would have clarified that whole thing, because it seems like he's threatened by Locke a little prematurely.
Yeah, and it'd be like that's why he wanted the list. He wanted to know who was on it. That's why he wanted the background check, because he's trying to figure out who is the threat that was prophesized.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been really interesting. And then he has to kind of weed through everybody and like figure out who it is.
He finds about the guy who could miraculously walk again.
Yeah, and he's like, that's my candidate right there. That's
Yeah.
the person who's shown the most ability. Yeah.
It would totally make sense. And now I have cancer and the whole thing, like the drama, it's like they almost have that, but they didn't make that extra step.
Yeah.
You know? But I think I don't know, that happens a lot. It's like they get 2/3 of it.
Sometimes they start at step 2,
Yeah.
which kind of helps them along, but when you want to piece it together, you're still missing step 1, and it's kind of like, well, it doesn't really work as well.
Yeah. Step one was important, I think.
Well, like Ethan's thing, right? That they gave us his step 1, which is his lifestyle and childbirth, and that's why he's really interested in this whole thing, and he's willing to do the torture Claire and put her in this room that looks like a nursery, and like do all this, go to that extent, because he's got a real he's not just crazy. It's not just symptom of his craziness.
Yeah. He's like really committed to this cause of dealing with the pregnancy issues.
Yeah, for the greater good.
Yeah, just like Ben is. But not only that crazy stuff, but also his kind of homicidal, acts, what he did to Charlie and going up and, murder whatever that guy was. He murdered and broke all his bones.
Oh, the guy in the water, yeah.
That's a little excessive, but
he broke every bone in his body.
Every bone in his body. That's what they said.
I feel like they were like, okay, whoever killed, when they're writing this, they're like, okay, whoever killed this guy, he's a doctor, so let's make him break every bone in his body.
Yeah.
Because he'll know how to do it.
That's what they did. That's what they tell us, and there's a logic there. But just that idea of like, I'm going to kill someone every day until going to that. And then the other saying, we didn't tell Ethan to do that.
Yeah. Oh, that was great. He just overreacted.
Yeah. That's what happened. And it's so weird because you think that's the plan. You think this is how the others are.
And isn't it this? We had this similar revelation about Ben's side of that, right? Of going, okay, wait a minute. Jacob didn't tell him to get fixated on saving the pregnant women. He had that from his own issues.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so weird to have that revelation of like these characters are operating, and you think, okay, well, they have a really good reason for doing that. You know, that's bigger than themselves. Mm-hmm. You know, and then it turns out, nope.
It's themselves. That's what
it's just themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't have to look outside of that for a reason to be motivated.
Yeah, it's like at the end of X-Files or something, the FBI goes, you know, Mulder, we didn't really need you looking into those cases. Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah, did we ask you to do that?
Yeah, did we? Yeah, they're like, they call him into the office, like, yeah, we're just reviewing the last 10 years of your work here, and we found a snafu. Looks like you've been, working a lot of cases, kind of like one every week, and some better than others, and it looks like you weren't assigned any of these. Oh,
man.
We, in fact, didn't know you were on the payroll.
Oh, man. I could see that. You know, the funny thing is, like, Mulder has enough internal motivation to do all those without being assigned. So it actually could work.
Yeah. And he goes, no, I was just super committed. I just,
I just really
gotta find the truth.
My sister was abducted, and
yeah. Did you hear the story about my sister?
Yeah. Can I tell you again?
Can I put it in a mobisode for you? You can watch it on your Verizon phone.
Yeah, I mean, that's a classic thing in TV in general. I mean, I've seen tons of shows that have this kind of setup where a character has some tragic events in their past, mm-hmm. and a lot of times it's some family member or whatever dying or something that whatever those circumstances were sort of affects their behavior in the future. Yeah. It causes them to pursue certain crazy goals or whatever, or react in a certain way. That's a very standard thing, but I think it fits into Lost really well, because of the format.
Yeah.
Because it's all about people's individual perspectives, making motivations personal is like the most mm-hmm. obvious thing you can do in that environment. To say, like, ultimately what motivates people is, like, their own experiences.
Yeah.
Less so than these more broad abstract ideas.
Mm-hmm.
That you might imagine that, every single other, if you had assigned them to this Claire thing, would have done the same thing Ethan did. You could imagine that, mm-hmm. But it's kind of, I can see them wanting to say, like, no. This is like Ethan's problem.
Yeah, this is how he decided to react to the situation based on his experience. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, someone with a different history and a different,
like Ben. Story. Like, if Ben didn't hate his father, like, if Ben was in the position of saying, listen, I want to kill Dharma, but I don't want to kill my dad because I love him, that would have been a difficult position, and he would have had to do something else.
Right.
Because his father couldn't become another, like, he's got to go if Dharma's going to go.
Right.
But the fact that he actually hated him, put him in that position, so that's what he's able to do, so it's like, this obviously, this direct sort of depiction of how your experience motivates your behavior, and that's how psychopaths are born. So be nice to your kids, folks.
Yeah, that's the clear message.
Don't raise a psycho.
But speaking of that, because you brought up Ethan's parents being Horace and fucking Amy, in that scene, and how, like, weird that is. Mm-hmm. I think another missing element for me is his defection. to the others. Are we to imagine that his home life was like Ben's, like it was sort of abusive and unpleasant to the extent that he wanted to run away from the Dharma camp and join the hostiles? Like
Horace was a drinker.
Was Horace true? Horace was a drinker, but I don't know. Publicly, at least, he didn't seem.
Well, he got taken as a kid, right? Because he's a kid when the purge happens, or he's fairly young when the purge happens, right?
Yeah, well, I guess that's the question. But no, it depends.
Because you see him don't you see him with Ben when he's young?
Yeah. But I'm not sure if that was before or after the purge. I think there's a controversy there about when the purge happened.
Yeah.
Because that's the Rousseau stuff, and I think whether the purge happened before or after Rousseau is like kind of up for debate. I think there's conflicting information.
Yeah.
I think Horace, right? I think if I can remember this right, Horace says, "I've been dead for 12 years," to Locke, in the dream, and that would mean that the purge happened in 1992. Which would be after Rousseau. Rousseau being 16 years before.
Yeah.
Obviously, because 16 years.
But how are they counting years, and how do they know how long it's been?
Well, yeah. You can certainly call that into question. But I think that's what the first date's based on.
Yeah.
And the second one is, I think the Lost Encyclopedia indicates that the purge actually happened in something like 86, which would be before Rousseau, like a couple years before Rousseau.
Yeah.
And then in that circumstance, Ethan would have been, because I think Ethan was born, it was like 77 when they were there. So Ethan would have been like 9 or something, 8, you know? And so maybe they just took him because he was a kid.
Well, yeah, and Ben probably had a soft spot for kids,
right.
From having his own bad childhood.
He definitely does. That's what the Alex thing is about.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it would make sense that's maybe that's all there is to it, if that's the timeline. But it is weird. I mean, it's you can call it into question, and it's very reasonable to do so, and whatever. But it's weird to have Horace say a specific number if it's not true. Like, it's bizarre. But a similar thing happens with Widmore, where he talks about, like, searching for the island for 20 years and stuff, and then, like, when you work out the timeline, it's like,
yeah.
When was that exactly? Because he's still there when Rousseau's,
It's just a really basic question of why would a dream ghost know how long time has been? It's just like no one's asking that question. Like, why are we trusting a dream ghost with a calendar? Like, what is he using to sync up time? Now I agree though. Like, if they say it, it should be true. Otherwise,
it's weird. I'm reverting to like the old me, where I'm like, well, they said this thing, so like, why would they say it if it's not true? I understand that doesn't work here. But it is weird. I still find it a bit odd. Like, I agree it's not there's no reason to believe it. Except for the fact that ultimately I think that's a Man in Black dream, and I think he knows how long it's been. I don't know why he feels the need to say that.
Maybe he misspoke.
He could have misspoke. He
did the math wrong.
He did the math wrong. What year is it again? It's confusing.
He didn't carry the one.
Yeah.
Gotta always carry that one, man. Even if you don't need to, always carry that one.
Yeah, that's a good point. No, I think there's stuff in the show where it's supposed to be like both time periods, and I think it's just an inconsistency that they are trying to, that they sort of decided let's make it this date, and then we can worry about the other stuff.
No one will notice.
Yeah. I mean, only if you really pay attention and you think about, what I mean? Today was the first day I even thought about Widmore's life, like outside, in terms of his life as a business mogul. Like,
How many years did it take?
It's so long. It's ridiculous. It's almost been 10 years on the podcast. We definitely knew about Widmore back in season 2.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been forever.
Well, putting together the two parts of his life that we found out
is later. Yeah, we don't find out he's an other until season 5. So
yeah, and it's so weird to piece together. Okay, then he became a businessman. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. It's all about the timing, like because they tell us that first, it doesn't seem as weird when they tell us, oh, he was an other before.
Yeah.
Whereas somehow the other way around sounds weirder.
Like the fact that Desmond ends up on the island that he used to be protector of, like that should be really interesting to him.
Oh yeah. That's a good point.
Shouldn't that prove something about his worth to Penny or something? Like, that's such a strange thing, and I feel like Widmore doesn't.
He doesn't
ever
see that at all.
Yeah, and even though he knows,
oh, damn it, Desmond, you're on the island. Get off.
Yeah, even Jacob telling him Desmond is important, he never was like, well, you know what, Desmond, I was wrong about you.
Yeah.
My deity has given you the thumbs up, but you're okay in my book. Like that never happened.
No.
It's so weird that he never kind of relented. It was like, really closing that loop of the whole beginning of their relationship, right? Of like, you're not good enough. And then it was just still like at the end, the world is going to hinge on whether or not Desmond can do this hat trick at the end. And Widmore still doesn't care.
Yeah, that's kind of annoying. I didn't think about that whole either. And they have like a kind of reconciliation in the Flash Sideways, but it's kind of too little, too late. I think.
You'd expect a line from Widmore like, "Who would have thought you'd be the key to saving the world?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then he, a cheesier version of the show, they would drink some McCutcheon whiskey and then go off on the mission.
That's what they do in the Flash Sideways.
Well, yeah, cheesier version of the show. I was right.
The cheesier version is the Flash Sideways.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, but to me that's too late. Like I feel like he had enough information on the show to have like they didn't have to like be best friends or anything like they were in the Flash Sideways, which is fucking excessive. But like they could have at least had a little bit of a, it's like Desmond wakes up and attacks him because he was, drugged and brought there. And then like he puts him in a chamber to like, that like kills people, just to test and see if it works.
That's the thing. I feel like they wrote that the pace of that ending was so fast. I feel like a better version would have been a sit down scene where Widmore explains to Desmond why he needs to decide to help him do this. And Widmore can explain how his mind was changed and he sees the light now and what this is, pun intended, where he's going to go ahead and help with Jacob's plan and then tell but he goes, Desmond, it's up to you to decide if you're going to help do this thing. And just for the record, I was wrong about you. And, and that actually propelled Desmond to like, go on this big mission at the end to wake everybody up or whatever, instead of just like throwing him into the zap machine as like a torture thing, even though it's kind of like, well, we need to do this, but also you're not asking his permission to do this.
Right.
It was really weird. It was like they didn't want to take the time to do it the other way.
And they even prove like they have someone go in there and like get like totally fried or whatever to prove that it's like really dangerous, that he's just like, put him in there, go, like whatever, like he doesn't care about Penny's feelings for Desmond. He doesn't care about Jacob's opinion of Desmond and what it means for the island and all that. He's just like, whatever, it's weird.
Yeah, it is really weird.
I feel like I didn't put that together either.
Sorry, I think I'm breaking the show right now.
Yeah, it's killing me. No, I do. I definitely had the awareness that Widmore was like a thinly drawn character, and it's kind of a problem. But I feel like the details, I didn't really see all those details. I noticed other stuff like the fact that he never has a scene with Penny, for example.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird. And the fact that his big conversion occurs off screen, you know. I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff but yeah, those are actually big points in his big journey. And
yeah, I mean, it could have been something like, Jacob says Penny's sick, she's dying, and if you want me to save her, go do this mission.
Oh yeah.
Oh, like that. Okay, great. Widmore's gonna sacrifice his, grand plans for the island and for save his daughter. Fine. It's like he never had to give up anything, which is like that's not what a character arc gets you.
Right.
He just kind of stayed the same, and off screen we were told he has a different point of view, but he didn't have different like tactics,
Yeah, he still acted like the same old Widmore.
Yeah, he just wanted something different,
Right. Yeah, and he still, it's weird. He's the ruthless guy. It's just, yeah, different goal. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, he didn't actually seem to care about reconciling with Penny. Like
no.
that didn't seem to be like that would have been the normal thing for his type of character, for his archetype, really. And
yeah,
like
that's where that
he was
goes.
Cool. He was fine. He didn't really pine over that a lot.
Yeah. Right. That's what you mean. Yeah. No. It didn't seem like. It's weird. I feel like because that. I mean, as important as they wanted to make Desmond. Obviously, as we've discussed many times, the only thing Desmond cares about is Penny.
Yeah.
And the main obstacle for Desmond and Penny's relationship was Widmore.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like the story needs that reconciliation, and I guess they thought that Flash Sideways was enough. But to me, it just doesn't seem like enough.
Yeah.
Well,
not if you're going to bring them back together at the end. And then not have them reconcile, then what was the point? Like, you have them team up for the last big adventure, and you don't have them say. I mean, that's generally what you expect. I mean, that's what happens at the beginning of like Act 3 in a movie. Was like the characters go, okay, you know what, I learned my lesson. Now let's fight this final battle.
Yeah.
And you expect that, and it just like doesn't happen, because I think they still want him to be the bad guy, because he's gonna be bombing the beach and like
right.
So they just didn't have him change. They gave him all these kind of avenues to change, and they just like, nope, some people don't change until the afterlife apparently. So
yeah, I guess that's that was the tricky line they were walking. Like he was supposed to be on the quote unquote good side because he was against the Man in Black, but he's still kind of behaving like a supervillain.
Yeah.
And so it's just weird to have a character of that type on the good side.
Like if he had come to the island with Desmond and the submarine or something, and rescued all the red shirts and got them out of the way before bombing the island or something, where he comes to like, I mean, that's talk about a character arc. Like, yeah, him saving people off the island and getting them to safety would be like him completely changing from like the guy who was protector of the island,
right,
under Jacob.
Yeah.
That would have given him a big boost of like, okay, wow, he's really changed.
He really is different. Yeah. Instead of like.
But instead, they literally have him kill, the passenger. They have him be the guy. It's funny, they have him be the guy we expected, like in season 3, though. That's what's weird, is it feels shifted, where it's like, okay, well, this is the guy we had expected this whole time, but by this time in the story, he should be different.
Right.
Because he's got a different agenda. So why are we getting the same old guy?
Yeah.
With this new agenda? That's the part I think is incongruous. I think.
Yeah, it just kind of clashes. And then, after all this, finally he's like in a room with the Man in Black, and because the Man in Black says, well, if you don't tell me the secret about Desmond, then I'm gonna kill Penny.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, okay. It's just like, really? After all that? That's it?
Mm-hmm.
One threat, and you're out.
Yeah,
really?
Peace. Yep.
Like, it's unbelievable to me that, like, you literally were talking, you were telling telling Jen or whatever about like how if he gets off the island, your daughter, my daughter, everyone's gonna be dead. We can't ever let this happen. I came here to make sure that doesn't happen. That's my whole purpose in life. I'm gonna kill your daughter if you don't tell me. Okay, like.
Well,
what?
it's again, it's Ben and versus Kimi with Alex, right? Like it's that situation. It's a standoff, and he goes, "Oh no, I'll tell you."
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah,
he
exactly.
takes the
He
other,
makes the opposite decision. It's like actually when it comes down to it, I'm a little more committed to this than I am to this like more general thing of like I gotta protect the island or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know. I guess that means he cares about Penny more than the island, which maybe is a good thing, but it also seems kind of disappointing.
Yeah. Well, if it's one of those things where it's like, well, if I could, tell you and Penny's safe, or not tell you, and then the world, might be gone, but, it kind of doesn't make any sense either way.
Right. Yeah.
But, it's weird to find those, and I bet there's other characters like that too.
Yeah, we just haven't like thought through the arc completely, and like, wait a minute, like something's off there. 'Cause the way the show runs, it makes it really easy to just go with the flow, and you find out reveals about characters, and you just say, okay, you just kind of add that to the list.
Yeah.
But it's really easy to not like reverse connect the dots. Well, if they did this and they were doing this earlier, that means they did the second thing first.
Yeah.
And so like, how does that make sense?
Yeah, you put the pieces in order and then you see what's missing, and it's Yeah, and then like things start to pop up and you realize, oh yeah, that's kind of, I don't know. I think, because Jack and Sawyer have a sort of reconciliation. I mean, even Ben like gets reconciliation with a lot of characters. He's like helping out at the end. And it's like Ben, and Widmore and Desmond can't have a scene where they like come to some understanding. And like Desmond even needs to forgive Widmore. Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's...
I think they had an aversion maybe to, like, because there's it's the same thing with Jack and Christian not really getting the, I knew you could do it speech,
right.
Like, maybe I feel like there's a father-son pattern here where it's like when it's that dynamic, they don't get that closure, but like other types of, peers get the closure.
Relationships, yeah.
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 The sort of lateral relationships.
That's a good point. Because Son doesn't have a big reconciliation with her father. They don't really. I can't really think of any characters that really get that.
Kate doesn't reconcile with her mom.
Hell no. Yeah.
Locke gets to see real Sawyer dead.
Right.
And Sawyer gets that.
I mean, I guess that's a kind of closure. It's not the same kind of thing.
Yeah, it's not like the end of the character arc. It's just another turn.
And it's not a reconciliation. It's more
like
you're dead now.
It's closure. It's closure. It's not.
Yeah. That reminds me of that crazy idea, like, you want to stay on the island because you're afraid of him. Like, he's gonna come get you if you leave. Like, that was crazy.
What was that from?
I think that's what Ben insinuated.
To who?
To Locke.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They're like you don't want to let anyone leave the island because you're afraid of him.
Yeah, that's weird.
That was crazy. It's crazy. Something that never would have occurred to me.
Yeah. Thanks for that one.
Yeah. Like, pulling that out. Okay, fine, guys.
All right. Well, anything else on these?
No. So it was interesting. You know, it's all pretty breezy. All the scenes are pretty fast.
Yeah.
And I don't know if any of them were like spectacular.
Yeah. I remember Room 43 being really interesting, and upon rewatching it, it wasn't.
Yeah, no. I feel like that's what I was gonna say when I was talking about like what we learned. I feel like Room 23 just like reiterates something.
Yeah,
You
it
know?
says, "Oh, by the way, that thing that happened. Yeah, okay, it happened again."
Yeah, like it's a thing. He did that. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like it kind of just confirms that, makes it a little more certain that it's connected to Walt,
Mhm.
but it doesn't really tell us anything about it. You know what I mean? It
I
doesn't
mean,
give us
what was supposed to be the ultimate end of that plot line? Like, there's gonna be
the
some point where
birds.
he summons a flock of birds to attack people, and like he's got this bird power.
It's
You know, like he can like
it's
summon hordes of
ridiculous.
birds.
Yeah, that's yeah, no. Walt the bird guy, like no, I
Yeah,
can't even imagine. Bird boy? Like what the fuck?
bird boy.
There's no No, I can't even it's weird. When I think about it, the fact that they chose to reiterate that at this stage, I
Yeah.
think is really strange. Because I feel like they must know that it's not going anywhere at this point,
Mhm.
right? So that's just the decision to do that. I remember at the time thinking they're gonna get back into this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. It seemed like they were bringing it up because they were gonna talk about it again.
Yeah, like oh, that's and we did just see Walt at the
Yep.
end of season 3, and
See, yep, two times is a coincidence. You know,
yeah,
you expect it's a pattern, but not yet.
it's like oh, Walt's like specialness is still they're still thinking about that, you know?
Yeah. And they were that helps this episode helps explain like why we saw him. Oh, okay. Well, he
Mhm.
was being weird because he's got the specialness, guys.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah, totally. Totally. It's just it seems like that's what you're heading for and you just don't realize. But I feel like they knew. I mean, it's hard for me to believe they thought they were going to do all kinds of stuff with Walt and then they just changed their mind or something, you know? Like
Hmm.
I feel that way about some storylines, but not the Walt thing. I feel like they knew it.
I think they probably wanted more magic, more mystical stuff. I think more of The Shining. And they get that with these freighter characters, right? Like when
Yeah.
Miles comes, they
Yep.
get some more of this like people with powers, subplot.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I guess that's the substitute. And
Mhm.
and in Miles's case, like they trace it to his, being a child, being born on the islands.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like um uh he developed that power as a child. Just like Walt.
Hmm.
It's just that he's an adult character, so that means we can use him for multiple seasons
Yep.
without like, you know what I mean? It's almost like Walt should have been. Or they should have gone with Abaddon was Walt in the future or something.
Well, and even giving Hurley the power to see dead people, I mean, that's crazy.
It is crazy.
Like
Yeah.
that of the whole main cast, right? I mean, like that's the crazy power of
Yeah.
the original Losties.
Yeah. I mean, I guess Desmond's seeing the future thing is sort of a
Yeah.
power. Maybe his electromagnetic, whatever you call it, is his
Hmm.
main power. So yeah, I guess there are a few characters that have some sort of power, um, which is strange.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like Hurley really adjusted to seeing dead people pretty well.
Yeah, I feel like it worked for him because he thought he was crazy,
Yeah,
and so
he
it was
was
just
used to dealing with like crazy things happening. So yeah,
yeah, and also Dave. I feel like Dave
yeah,
was kind of a setup for, well, if I can have like a long relationship with a character who's like not there, it's like why not see dead people? It's not
yeah,
it's not it's not that big of a leap.
yeah.
if you have that crazy of an imagination, because he doesn't think they're there for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like he kind of he just thinks they're in his mind.
Yeah.
You know. But he does adapt to it. It's true.
Yeah, he's got a lot going on for him with the mysterious, that plus the numbers thing and winning the lotto thing. Like that's a lot for his character. Well, and oh, by the way, he becomes the leader of the island. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that's an interesting thing too, right? For a character with almost the most magical stuff happening around him.
Yeah.
He ends up being number 1, so maybe that's not a coincidence.
Yeah. And it does seem like they are pointing in that direction when you look back. I can definitely see it. Even though at the time, like, it went over my head. I never would have thought the show would go in that direction.
Well, and it's funny because now I'm going to say the opposite of what you said, which is that it makes sense. Because, Hurley has the best heart out of all the people.
Yeah.
He has the most pure heart and spirit, by evidence of when he gave all that food away that one time.
Right.
That's when he knew. That's when Jacob knew he'd be the
You're the one. Leader. Yeah.
I see that food distributing, man.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Jesus.
You're my guy.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, so I think that's, you expect the leader to be, someone like Jack who's actually a leader and can, like, be proactive. But that was like a Ben, where someone would have an agenda where Hurley's just going to, like, be super nice and chill, like, basically like Jacob was, I think, to an extent.
Right.
So, yeah, it's weird that it kind of makes sense that Hurley would end up being the guy.
Yeah, well, it's like Jack was there to like get the job done, like this one, be the man of action.
Yeah.
But Hurley was the long-term like caretaker.
And that's what's weird about that, how that ends. And we've talked about that. Is it's like it takes 3 people to end the show. It takes Desmond helping Jack and Jack helping Hurley. Like they have all these obstacles to go through, and it's like it's weird. Yeah, it's weird how it plays out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can see they wanted it to be sort of a team effort. And I also feel like because, Hurley, he did actually come through in the season 3 finale with the bus. I feel like that's probably his most heroic moment so far. But typically he's not going to like march out in the jungle and like take on the others or whatever, that's just not his thing. So if you're gonna, but on the other hand, you're right. He is pure and he's sort of more stable than any of the other characters. Even though he was in a mental institution.
Surprisingly, the crazy guy's the most stable. Yeah. Well, he's had the most practice dealing with reality and dealing with his mind. As a conscious thing. It's really. You can make a case that he's a really interesting character. I think they cover it up with a lot of antics.
True.
And
I think he gets better as the series goes on.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
I think it's kind of fragile.
Charlie was holding him back. I think. I don't know if there's a coincidence there, but once Charlie's out of the picture, he's got to grow up maybe.
Yeah. He's gonna open up season 4.
Yeah.
And like whoever thought he could hold a season premiere, like I wouldn't have expected that ever to work, But they start out right off the bat with him seeing dead people and seeing the cabin, you know, and it's like, what? Hurley's involved in that now? Mm-hmm. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, I forgot that turn he makes. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's starting to happen, and I remember that. It was kind of gradual because I think I still didn't buy into it right away, but like I gradually enjoyed Hurley more and more as the series went on. Because I do think early on, and it is partially Charlie, because Charlie wasn't necessarily my favorite character either. Like they're trapped in these antics, like you said, where it's just a lot of these.
They're the ones they're going to for the comic relief in the beginning, and then there's a certain point in the show there's not real room for the comic relief because they're literally doing shorter seasons, so we don't need all the fun times.
Yeah, exactly. They have to actually like participate in the real story and the stuff that matters. They can't
Mhm.
just sit on the beach and fuck around for,
Yeah.
a few more seasons. Like that's just not gonna work. Where that part of the show's over basically.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
The like sitting around doing nothing show,
It's
like
really funny to think how easy they had in the beginning.
yeah. Yeah, really. They had a lot of downtime. I mean, they
Yeah.
had time to like just, my whole thing this week is I'm just gonna chase a frog around,
Yeah.
you
It was
know,
really crazy. Yep.
or we're gonna
I need
play
to find
ping
a brief. Yeah. I
pong.
need to find a briefcase maybe.
We're gonna play poker. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
really
Find more
simple stuff like
mangoes.
that.
Someone in my stash.
Yeah,
Like they had it really easy compared to like, well, there's a undead smoke monster threatening to destroy everyone on the island.
yeah, exactly, exactly. It's it's completely. I mean, which makes sense. Obviously, the sort of stakes and stuff should go up as the story progresses. But
Hmm.
it is really dramatic. It's weird. It seems like the early seasons are really like dramatic, and there are a lot of crazy things that happen. But compared to what happens later, it does seem it's even the worst stuff that happens.
Yeah.
It doesn't even seem that impressive compared to
Hmm.
what they're dealing with later. You
Yeah.
know, like, oh yeah, Ethan like killed a guy. Okay, like wow, it's not. Oh, they kidnapped a kid. Yeah, okay.
Hmm.
it
Oh,
gets
the raft burned up.
it
Oh, okay,
gets
that's
worse
it.
than that.
Yeah. You guys aren't even time traveling yet.
Yeah, you're gonna endure like way beyond this.
Call me when you get to the 70s and you have to go to a hootenanny.
Yeah. Oh, oh my God, that guy's coming.
Hmm.
Oh, I forgot about Hootenanny Phil.
I
Oh my God, is his name Phil? I don't know. I want to call him Phil for some reason.
think he was a film.
Is he
Yeah.
Phil? Okay. I wasn't sure if he was Phil or if he's Phil in Mulholland Drive, and I'm just getting it confused.
He's always Phil. That's the scary
He
part.
should just play Phil's. He looks like a Phil.
He's a Phil.
There's something Philly about him. Um.
Gary, he's a Phil.
No, that's pretty much. It was cool though. I mean, it was cool. It's cool to me. I I think in terms of the actual show and the meat of it, like this doesn't have a lot of value, but I do find these like just like deleted scenes, like, and that's a little bit like what they are. Like
Hmm.
there's something interesting about these like things on the side that you
Yeah.
never saw, in the main story. Like just shading in those little details.
Yeah.
Um, and giving us scenes that really wouldn't belong anywhere else.
Oh
They're
yeah,
like
because the pace is
B-sides or something.
the pace is different. They're a little off. Like they
Yeah.
really wouldn't fit in. It's just one-off little things, and that
Yeah.
would have been fun to have for every season. Just like
Definitely.
here's some more stuff. But at the end of the day, it kind of doesn't matter. There's most of it's sort of throwaway. It doesn't really change anything. So it's kind of like B-sides.
Yeah,
They're
that's
kind of
yeah.
nice to have, but you live without them. So
I think if you're a big fan of the series, it's something you definitely want to watch.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, if you just want to get the point and you don't have a deep commitment to Lost, then like some people, then
No one we know.
yeah, I don't know who I mean. Yeah, then you can easily skip them and you don't necessarily miss anything. I do think it would have been cool to have them for every season because I feel like that would have given the opportunity to, fill in a few little things that kind of get brushed over.
Hmm.
Especially season 4 to season 5. I think
Yeah.
that would have been a really good time to have some of that. Um, but yeah, season 5, season 6 would have been interesting for different reasons. But yeah, it's sort of like official deleted scenes.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think it puts me in like a slightly different frame of mind going into season 4.
Hmm.
Because I didn't remember some of these things. And it does feel to me like part of what they're doing. I mean, certainly with like putting Michael in here, I do think they're kind of setting up season 4.
Hmm.
You know, in like a small way, just reintroducing him into the show.
Yeah. Yeah, they were interesting. Yeah, these little slices out of their regular day when Arnold's just complaining about his sad life.
Oh God. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I could live without that scene, pretty easily. I mean, it's the monsoon thing. That's why they put that in there. You know, I think that's the main like reason why that scene exists. Because you take that out, then yeah, there's really no, you know. But for me, like, it's weird.
Well,
it's weird that they did that because
it's super weird. And here's the other thing: is he could be wrong, right? Like in terms of answering the question, why didn't monsoon season hit the island? Isn't it? It's later revealed that the island moves,
right?
And he didn't know that. So just because he said he lied doesn't mean he couldn't have been right.
Right.
And the reason it didn't actually come was because the island moved, and he didn't know that, so he couldn't calculate that. You know, so it's weird
answer.
Yeah, so it's weird that they could have this sort of mobisode confirm why it didn't happen, but that still could be the wrong answer. So it's weird to, they can have a situation where they go out of their way to answer a question, but that might not actually be the answer.
Right.
Because later there's more information revealed, like, okay, well.
Actually, I remember something like this happening later. I want to say season 5. I think it's when Miss Hawking is talking about the fact that the island.
Miss Hawking is talking.
And yeah, Miss Hawking is talking. Ugh. She's talking about the fact that the island moves, and I think she says something like, "Why did you think you were never rescued?"
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and I remember at the time going, "What? We were told why they were never rescued, because there was that whole thing from like super early the season where the pilot says Seth, not Seth.
They're looking in the wrong place.
What's that guy's name? Greg Grunberg. He's not Seth Grunberg. He says, he says they're looking in the wrong place. Exactly. They were like way off course.
Yeah.
That's what they told us in like episode 1, you know? And it's like, no.
And number 2, don't forget, is Widmore faked the wreckage. So what was there to look for after a certain point?
Right. And even before that, they also tell us there's a barrier around the island. So it's like, if you can't even see it. So it's like, but
so is she just wrong that that's not the reason they were never rescued?
Yeah. Or is it that we were wrong?
Mm-hmm.
You know, which is also possible. And I remember the time thinking it's inconsistent, but it's like, no, they can have multiple characters tell us different reasons why they aren't being rescued.
Yeah.
Why not? You know, they're just giving their opinions. They don't.
Yeah, why would they be experts on that? You know, they weren't leading the rescue.
Yeah.
They're just making a guess.
There's no reason why they have to be right, you know. But it bothers me, and that's what the Ars thing reminds me of. It's like he gives a reason, and yet it doesn't have to even be right.
Because the reasons are always from their perspective, which is subjective, right? So the pilot gives the reason that a pilot would give, which is based on what he knows they were off course. She gives the reason she would know, which is the island moves.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like they're biased, but because it's stated, because we're conditioned from watching TV to expect that that's the answer.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's the way it normally works on TV.
That's the way it normally works, and they're using that against you.
Answers, you know?
Yeah.
It's not this like. It's not this intense process of like, well, wait a minute, you know, they just think that because.
Yeah, could you imagine like if you're living in that world to extreme where you're in class and you're in math class and it's like 2 + 2 = 4. Well, does it?
Yeah.
Or is that my interpretation of that?
You just think that because someone told you that.
Yeah.
And...
What if I told you 2 + 2 was 5? Would it be true?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can never know anything. It
can drive you crazy, and I think that was the war that I had with the show in the back in the days, because I wanted it to be like a normal show.
Was that the war Jack prophesized?
Yes, I think that was the one.
Nice.
I wanted it to be like a normal show where like you get information from characters, and yes, the characters have their own perspectives and stuff, but ultimately like that's how the authors give you information, right? Because they're not gonna they're not gonna print text on the screen or like talk to you directly. It's gonna have to be through the characters, just practically. So that's just the way it goes. But that doesn't mean that what they're saying has to always be questioned. You know?
Yeah, it's like it makes me think of a really bad metaphor of like reading a novel, and then every random number of pages there's a page that says everything you read may not be true.
Yeah.
And you're just expected to take that and keep reading and go, wait a minute, what?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like that would just be weird. Like you lose your grounding, and then it's just so much harder to like understand the story and what things mean and where it's heading when you can't even count on the information they're telling you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't be sure. You can like think it's right, but that's just you.
Which obviously is a lot like life, wouldn't you say?
I know it is. Of course it is.
It's the most annoying thing ever. It's like they're literally making the show the point that you can't know anything, and we're going to show you can't know anything by proving it,
And even watching the show is like life, and the fact that it's frustrating to me is like that's the point they want to make.
Yeah, now the question is, what are you going to do about that?
Exactly.
How's that going to motivate your behavior?
Of course.
What meaning do you interpret from
Well,
that?
apparently it's going to make me do a podcast.
Yep.
For like 10 years. And eventually I'm going to come to a big epiphany about the show being about life, and it's going to help me come to terms with it.
I feel like that's really got to be the end of our podcast, right? Is realizing the show is about living life, and it's like ending the podcast to go live life. I mean, that's how it should end, right?
Yeah. I think that's the logical place, And I think
anything else is just being a lock, right?
Exactly. And I think that's the problem. Like, and I have. There's a part of me that is very Lockean in terms of trying to understand everything and trying to make sense of things, and failing over and over again and being frustrated by that process. But I think most podcasters are definitely Locks, like in the old days, and I think and a lot of the fans and the hashtag assholes and all that, the people who are really angry. I think that's a Lock reaction.
Right, that's them throwing dishes.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
That's them blowing up the sub, and it's so funny. Yeah, Carlton and Damon should have called them out on that. You guys are being Locks.
You guys are Locks.
This is our point.
Yeah, did you see what happened to Locke? Like, that's not the path.
We won because we convinced you were this thing that you were watching. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird. It's weird that they win even when you hate their show. It's like unfair, It's really hard to escape something that's so all encompassing.
Like life.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, it's a little pervasive, I think. A wee bit pervasive, that influence.
It's hard to get outside that and say like, no, this is bad. You know what I mean? Because like it's a judgment, and it fits in their worldview so well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It feels like they already know. Oh, we know you might.
Well, I think that's the difference of the show, right? Is most shows create the reality in front of you, and you're standing outside looking at it and judging it. And the point of this is you realize you're in the box.
Yeah.
And you can't get outside of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's impossible. Are you alive? Like you're there.
That's actually a really good visual, I think, for the show, right? Is a person standing in a room looking at this box, which is the show, right? And then above them is another box.
Yeah.
And the show saying, no, you thought it was about this thing you're holding in your hand, but no, it's really about this thing that's surrounding you.
Outside you, yeah.
And that's why we get away with like being able to have these comments on the interaction between you and the show by these characters' interactions with what's going on the island.
Right. It's weird. It's like crazy.
It's almost like a psychological experiment.
That's what I was just gonna say. It's like some crazy mass experiment that they did on us without our knowledge.
Yeah, I feel like this whole show was like a CIA experiment, and they're still tracking people's reaction to it. And
yeah, it's like the first step toward Videodrome or something. It's like it's crazy. I obviously we analyzed this thing a lot. And it starts to feel like, we're making a lot of this show at this point.
Yeah.
But I just have to say, like, if that seems true, I mean, I feel like it's pretty hard to deny that what we're saying is in the show. Because it's almost it comes up constantly.
You can always come back to it, and I think it's a very weird. I think it does feel like it feels mystical in a way of like the numbers or something of like this recurring thing that keeps coming up. So as much as you want to ignore it or just say, well, it's an anomaly or it's not necessarily a pattern or it's obvious for some other reason. It's like, well, it seems like this is important because it and so even the act of doing that is just like making your own interpretation of what that means that you can keep coming back to that idea. So you can't escape it. You can't escape sort of reacting to whatever you're reacting to.
Yeah. Like, or that's just you giving the show too much credit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it's not giving it too much credit if they emphasize it over and over and over again. Like,
if it's part of their point, then that's the credit that's due, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's not. I don't know. I think if this was something that came up like once or twice, then it would be a little bit overdone. But it's like I doubt an episode passes without something along these lines. That comes up. It's in the mobisodes.
Yeah.
And so it's like if there's any theory of the show that has supporting evidence that comes up that often,
mm-hmm.
I feel like it would be hard to deny that it had something to it.
Yeah, like the theory that they're in purgatory doesn't have that much evidence.
Exactly. Not even close.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of moments, but it's pretty. There's plenty of stuff that goes the other way. But I don't think there's anything that gets away from this theory.
No.
Where it's like no, this is all scripted, and it's supposed to not be anything like life. Like I don't even know how they would get away from it.
Yeah.
It would be really hard. I mean,
like we're not making a comment on life.
Yeah. I mean, it would have to just be like a different show.
Yeah. Yeah, they would have to written something else.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the only way to write that.
It's the only way. I mean, it's weird to say that. I mean, it sounds, I don't know, it sounds like conceited or something to sort of be like, well, it just has to be true. But
yeah.
I feel like it's not even that. It's just as simple as you just watch the show and you you see it unfold.
Yeah, it's really again.
You don't need us to tell you, like it's there.
I think you need someone to point out what you're looking for because I think that's the revelation of this magic guy. That is the show is you don't know what you are supposed to be looking for.
Yeah.
To even ask that question, what it's really about, and because you're thinking about it from your past experience,
right.
So already you're in their game.
Right.
You're bringing your past experience to judge this subjective thing.
Right.
And you're going to interpret
meaning. Includes other TV shows.
Exactly.
And the way they work.
Exactly how TV show has worked since the beginning of television and storytelling and
yeah.
what you just expect. And yeah, it's so funny you get to that point.
Yeah, I guess you're right. You need to know what you're looking for, but I think if you know what to look for, it's really easy to find.
Yeah, and it's sort of obnoxious.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of over the top. It's like,
It's
wow,
kind of like
guys, we
even
get it.
here, yeah, even here okay, wow, you're really about that,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Even in small scenes that don't seem to matter, like the arse thing.
Yeah.
You know, like that's an example, and that scene doesn't matter at all, really. You know, it's weird, but that's what they do.
Yeah, it's a really interesting way to write, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I think it's unique. I think I've seen other shows like touch on these things, but I really haven't seen the focus, the like
Hmm.
really intense focus for, the entire run of the show, all the
Yeah.
way to the end. Even pushing it to we're gonna portray the afterlife, and even the
Hmm.
afterlife's gonna be like this. You know?
Yeah, like if you're not commenting on life and death on the show where most people's wrong theory is that they're in purgatory, so already that's obviously a big theme on the show.
Yeah.
But then like, yeah, showing people's uh actions in life and then in death.
Mhm.
Maybe the point of the show is life and what happens
Yeah.
after you die.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like even the idea, and I think this is where they go into speculation that is consistent with the show, but also like really unique. The idea that the afterlife is just as subjective as the life we're in now.
Yeah, and why wouldn't it be?
Yeah, it's a fair point, but
And
honestly, it's not
and you know
depicted that
why?
way, hardly
And
ever.
you know why? And I think what makes it interesting is it's the opposite of basically any religion that purports to describe it,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because that seems like, oh, well, it's written in stone, it's going to be like this thing. And then they say, no, 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 it's actually just going to be like the same experience that you had before. Why would it change just because you're dead?
Right,
you
right.
know, that's an assumption you made, by your past experience that it would be something different. And uh, yeah, it's just weird for a show. I'm trying to even think.
That makes me rethink the like stained glass thing with all the religious symbols. That makes me see it less as like these were all right and more as these are all people's, speculations and like attempts to understand or come
Hmm.
up with an explanation or an interpretation of these things that, people don't really know the answers to, you
Hmm.
know? And that like representing that in the afterlife kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and it is also something they kind of leave behind, right?
Yeah. 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 But it's like here's the sum of humanity's attempts to understand the afterlife. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
Like there's a kind of logic to having that there. And then here's what it is, at least for these people.
Yeah.
Generalize at your, own peril.
Yeah.
Because like you can't. You don't really know how much that extends beyond them.
Hmm.
But uh, but yeah, it feels like it's actually more saying like those religions just fit into their worldview as much as anything else does. It's just they're really concerned with a lot of these things that we really can't know in life because they specifically occur after life.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I'm trying to think of another show where at the end of the show they just tell you what happens after you die.
Yeah,
Like
it's
they give a theory, like, hey, by the way, I know you didn't sign up for this when you started watching a show about a group of people who, land on a mysterious island after a plane crash. But after you die, you and your closest friends and family create an alternate reality where you work out your problems one last time
yeah.
uh, to compete for the chance to move on together. This is your afterlife. It's like a game show.
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah,
totally crazy.
it's really
I
weird. Yeah, it's like, can you imagine if Alias did that?
Yeah, no.
Like, by the way,
Yeah, and then here's the afterlife. Yeah, it's too much. I think.
and Rimbaldi's there.
Oh God, yeah, it's a Rambaldi. Oh my God,
Oh
enough with you.
man.
You and your crazy puzzles and your
Yeah.
inventions.
You
It's
know
all
what I
too
want to see?
much.
You know what I want to see a spin-off episode of Rimbaldi meets Alvar Hanzo.
Yeah, that would make sense. They belong together. Rambaldi's totally the Hanzo of
Yeah.
Alias. Yeah, that's
Yeah, there's a lot to
weird.
talk about.
That's really weird. I
Well, I think, yeah, that's been the biggest refrain, I think, so far from this commentary rewatch podcast series is really kind of how often the whole theme of life and interpretation is really integral to the show. And yeah, you don't really know that going in. And obviously part of that is them saying that after the
Yeah.
show was over.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then being able, again, looking for that, right? Like
Right.
looking for evidence of that. Okay, well, really, what? Because that was our reaction at first, right? Like calling BS on that because it sounds so pretentious.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, by the way, the two questions we were asking
Yeah.
is, what's the meaning of life? What happens after you die? It's like,
Yeah.
get out of here with that. That sounds stupid.
Yeah, that's really like, come on, get a
Mm.
grip. No one can address the meaning of life. Like that's
Mm.
crazy. That's crazy to even approach that with an ABC, action
ABC
adventure.
action show, yeah,
Like what?
yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Who asked you to do that?
Yeah, I'm sure that no one did.
Yeah, I
I
just wanted my nice procedural mystery show.
yeah. This week it's a cop show.
Uh-huh.
Next week it's a lawyer show. Like then it's a
Yeah.
medical show.
Then
That's the
then the
shit they
week
were selling.
it's like then the week after that it's the meaning of life show that was missing from the plan there.
Yeah, they so did not mention that was going to be the main point.
Hmm.
Cuz yeah, I think that's not something that it's funny, it's like it sneaks in, you know? It's like right there on the surface and yet the show goes on without it being openly acknowledged, you know? Like no one talks about it on the show. Like, oh man, these experiences we're having, they're really a lot like like no one's gonna say that.
Yeah.
It's never gonna be explicitly mentioned, and so the show can just proceed as a normal show,
Hmm.
but just the way that it unfolds will illustrate the point.
Yeah.
And I think that's how they sneak in such an ambitious concept into, what really could be. And there are many shows out there that, have tried to capitalize on the Lost thing, and I don't think any of them really I mean, I haven't seen them all obviously, but the ones I have seen, they don't hit on this thing.
Well, I think one of the things they did right with the idea is they really identified how, and this why I think it fits with the storytelling so well, is they really identified how interpretation is integral to your behavior. And
Yeah.
that's really the lens that they use for all these characters to experience similar things
Right.
and then show what they do. And I mean that's kind of the function of a survival apocalyptic scenario anyway, is okay, what do these people do after this catalyst? But having that, but the reason I think that a show like The Walking Dead isn't what's the meaning of life and what happens after you die is because they're not saying that their behavior is predicated by their different interpretations of what's happening.
Right.
Whereas like even on The Leftovers that's true, right?
Right.
Is like in The Walking Dead everyone's seeing the same stuff, everyone's experiencing the same stuff. It's not a question of if there's a zombie there or not,
Right.
or if the zombies are good or bad,
Right.
or it's like, no, these are the facts and we can operate, whereas Lost doesn't have that.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think another thing they put their finger on that like I really want to give them credit for is the connection between like mysteries and like just the mysteries of life in the universe.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, because I think that is like on a subtle level. It's something I never thought about, but like there is a sense in which like mysteries work because it's a kind of nicely packaged way of tapping into that uncertainty and confusion that you have all the time about things.
Well, what's funny is it's the number one thing, right? I think it's the most primal thing is mystery.
Yeah,
We start with mystery. Um, Everything's a mystery for any sort of like thing that's alive, right? You're
yeah,
constantly operating in life with mystery and trying to find answers to questions for survival.
yeah,
And so it's kind of a shortcut to the most, you know, relatable thing there is.
yeah, exactly.
And it's like cheating in a way. It's like, well, you pick the biggest thing, but it's the biggest for a reason, so it kind of makes sense to pick it.
Yeah, and you know, I never really thought about like why do I enjoy mysteries so much?
Hmm.
You know, but I feel like that's there somehow. You know, I enjoy horror movies because of the, you know, the sort of weird um like survival kind of you know, tapping into those
Hmm.
primitive instincts, I guess,
Yeah,
like
the flight or
aspect.
fight.
Yeah, exactly. Like getting a chance to exercise those things that are there, but that I don't really need
It's
on a daily
because, yeah,
basis.
your limbic brain wants to be on the plains hunting, animals,
Yeah,
but that's not your normal day. But you go watch a horror movie and you get that same feeling of like danger in life because that's in your DNA.
right. Exactly. Yeah. And like I kind of understand that, but I never really thought about sort of mystery, like what is it about mysteries that are appealing, you
Hmm.
know? And especially like mysteries with answers, you
Yeah.
know? Because like I think that scratches the itch that you can't do in life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That it tells you here's the solution. You know,
Hmm.
and so I mean you get a few of those in life, but it's pretty
And
rare.
that's what we want, right? We want to believe life has answers if you look the right way
Exactly.
at it, if you do the right thing, if you do the right, say the right thing or believe the right thing, it'll all work out, or you'll get the thing you want, or it'll make sense. And yeah, it's just weird to kind of just set up a playground for that and have characters just say, go play in that world where things don't make sense on a very physical level because you're on its island.
Yeah.
That's really crazy.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I just, when I started, well, I just didn't know I was ready for this. You know, like I don't think I mean, I think I would say I enjoyed mysteries at the time, but I didn't really appreciate what a deep thing they tap into,
Yeah.
you know, and how like because they hit you on that level, just like with the horror movie, you know, it's a different kind of thing. It's more you know, it's more about consciousness and less about like instincts.
Yeah.
But you know, because they tap into that, it's very powerful. You know,
Hmm.
it can really drive you to think about it a lot. Um, Obviously,
Yeah.
but that's you know I just wasn't ready, and it makes me understand why I like other shows more.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, like it helps me understand a lot of things. It's weird, and I feel like they specifically identified this element that I think other stories have like touched on, but I haven't seen one that really brings it to the forefront so much in such a major way and builds it into the DNA of how the show operates and also like what the show is supposed to be about in general, you know?
Hmm.
Like mysteries are not usually about like the idea of mystery itself in life, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're usually about the specific mysteries that they're supposed to be about, you
Yeah.
know? and that's it. You know, it's like it's generalized.
It kind of makes me think of like the difference between Lost and like The Prestige, right? Where like,
Yeah,
you know,
good example.
without necessarily spoiling the ending, like if they didn't tell you definitively how it happened,
Right.
you know,
Right.
that would be the Lost way
Mm-hmm.
of just leaving it up to you to decide, well, was it something practical or was it something supernatural?
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's why the, you know, when I get full answers for things, I might enjoy them or not, but ultimately that's a story that I can forget about,
Yeah.
you know, much more easily.
Yeah.
Whereas something
Well,
like
yeah, I think
this,
on the unsolved mysteries definitely are like earworms, you know, like the
yeah,
part of the song you repeat over and over and you never get past the connecting part because you can't quite remember it, so you just reboot and think about it over and over again. And yeah, it definitely has that quality where you're just wanting to connect it, and then so you can leave it alone.
yeah,
It's like
exactly.
unfinished business, yeah.
I feel like I can keep chipping away at it and like I'll finally get there. You know, even though I feel like all signs are pointing to like this might be a completely pointless quest.
That's such a funny sentiment you just said because there's a really great Star Trek Voyager episode where like that's really the theme of this like villain character who like is trying to change time by like wiping out entire species so he could like reform his lost loves colony or whatever. But like it's this impossible task he has that you know any rational person knows can never be done, but yet he like still gonna do it.
Mm-hmm.
Still gonna do it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think that's what a lot of people do. You know, they try to understand these things, even if, you know, there's very little hope that they ever will.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's predictable that I would fall in this pattern, but it does feel a little bit crazy. And yet I do get satisfaction out of feeling like we've made progress to the
Mm-hmm.
extent that it's possible.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, I don't know, it's a weird space. It kind of blows me away when I think about the trajectory of thinking about this show and how that's been
Mm-hmm.
over the last several years. Like the place where I am with it now is so unrecognizable to the way I was thinking about it back in, you know,
Yeah, for sure.
2006 or whatever when we started this thing. Like there's just I was so not on this level. I was much more just it's a TV show and we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
get these answers, so we're just gonna speculate about like what the latest shit is this week,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can, you know, hope for the day when they finally tell us what the answer is. You know.
Yep. Yeah, like every other show you've ever seen.
That's how shows are.
It's part of the definition of a show. Look it up.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's
they really it's so again ironic that they pitched the show with this document that's you know hyping how traditional it's gonna
yes.
be, and then they go and make the complete opposite show.
I know, and it's amazing to me also that a show like this would be like a mainstream network show. You know, it's not a cable show. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not a super arty show. It's got a lot of you know, traditional action adventure kind of business,
Yeah,
heroism, and you know, a
it
lot of
actually is not that far from like an '80s action adventure show. You know,
yeah.
it really could have come on. It would have been way ahead of its time then, but like. It really feels like it's that kind of vibe and pace. It's just not as cheesy as one, you know,
Right.
what we would see
Right.
today.
I mean, take away like some of the mystery elements and a lot of the strangeness and, you know, that weird pervasive attitude. Like a lot of the missions they do and stuff. I mean, yeah, it could be the A-Team
It's
or
like the A
something.
Team, yeah. I was gonna
Yeah.
say, yeah.
Like why not? I
I mean,
mean,
they're clinking beers on skeletons' heads, you know. They're
Sawyer's like face and
uh-huh. Yep. Saeed's Mr. T.
so he's probably Mr. T. Yeah, like I feel like they have, they have those personalities, and even when they engage in missions, like that's kind of how it plays out, Like,
yeah, Kate's a plucky woman that they told to stay behind, and she followed them anyway.
Yeah, they totally do all that stuff, and I guess that's how they get away with it, because it plays on that level.
They want to tell the story that's like The Stand, with like wars and nature of good and evil, and it's weird to have those two things at once.
It is. I'm surprised it worked. Like, it's lucky that they caught a big audience, and that they were able to have enough clout to actually get a specific commitment for an end date. Because a show like this could have easily just ended too early, and they didn't get to realize their full thing.
Yeah, and I think like the idea of a mystery show not giving all the answers is going to pave the way for other shows to do that at some point.
Oh yeah.
Like Les Revenantes, or The Return, like they might end up something like that by the end of like you just never got all the answers.
Yeah.
Or Leftovers may be like that.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, Leftovers. I really wouldn't be surprised. We know your games, Mr. Lindelof. We're on to you. Fool me once, blah blah blah.
Like fool me 6 seasons, blah blah blah.
I'm expecting it this time, so it's a different experience watching The Leftovers, definitely.
Yeah, I feel like it's like I watch it on guard. I'm like, I'm anticipating the moves.
Yeah. There's an extra layer there.
What is it really? Because whatever's on screen isn't what it really means.
No, that's not.
If it is like it's like a magic trick, right? Yeah, if you're watching the screen, you're watching the wrong thing. Right? The action's on the side,
Right. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird to have that, to sort of know that that's probably the right way to watch.
Yeah. Don't get too hasty in making conclusions.
That's exactly.
And don't necessarily believe other characters' conclusions.
Right. Don't assume because someone says something like that's the official word.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally learned that. And other shows like do have some of that, but that's one where you can be sure they're gonna be those elements. But yeah, it will be interesting, these like newer mystery shows. I mean, there was Wayward Pines. If anyone's seen that, there's some fucking answers if you're into those. They get real specific about answers.
Nice.
If you're into like answers and like I know everything about everything.
But one question. Do they have answers?
So many answers.
All right.
More answers than you ever wanted, at least in my case. Yeah, it's weird. It's almost like the opposite of Lost.
Yeah, and it's interesting again. Like, it's just a strange thing to a theme to pattern a show on, this whole idea of life, because like whatever your reaction is, it's applicable to the show. Yeah, it's just so you can always go back to it.
Yeah, you can't escape them. Whatever you do is contained in their idea.
Yeah. Yeah, you're part of the game. It's like if you went to a play and the guy stands on stage and he says, "Okay, the play began before you entered the theater."
Yes.
And no matter what happens from then on is part of the play.
Yeah.
No matter what happens is part of the play, and you have to decide. So if you get up and you stand up and say, you guys aren't doing anything, that was your part participating in the play. And now what does that mean, and how is everybody else going to react?
Exactly.
And then another person says, "Be quiet. This is part of the performance. Just go along with it." Now you have two different opinions about this event. And you're going to have people going on either side, and then,
the locks and the jacks.
There it is.
Yeah, totally. That's what it's like. It's weird. It seems like that's why it's weird. It seems like this extreme sort of avant-garde experimental thing. And it's like it's hard for me to process that with what is actually a really normal show.
Yeah, and it does seem like that's giving them too much credit to call it that, but it's like, well, what else did that? What else is doing
Yeah,
that?
that's the thing. That's the thing. If you can point to like 10 other shows that do that, as opposed to the other stuff the show does that, yes, plenty of other shows do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I think that would be more convincing to me, but I can't. I haven't seen every show out there, but I've seen a fair number of them, and I haven't seen any that really do that thing.
Yeah.
And do it so thoroughly.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They do it. It's like, okay, like
okay, already we get it.
It's almost like they overdo it.
It's kind of like if that was people's criticism of the show, I would actually be refreshed.
Yeah.
If you know what, guys, the problem with Lost is it's just too much like real life.
Right.
Every single thing that happens on the show just is telling me that this is how life is.
Right.
You can't really know anything, and you have to make your best judgment. And sometimes you make mistakes, and sometimes and it's just like you go on and on and on, and it's that would be reasonable.
And I just get tired of hearing that.
You're tired of it's like I get it already.
Yeah, and it's like that would be valid criticism, but no one ever says that. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that.
Yeah.
As the problem with Lost, like it's just not there.
It's too consistent in its theme.
Yeah, exactly.
Too consistent by half.
Yeah, I think if you were going to criticize it, that could be something you would say, because it really is like they just don't quit.
Mm-hmm.
With that, it's hard to even think of a scene where any of the sort of big scenes of the show where that doesn't play a role.
Yeah.
It's so everywhere. You won't need to reach to find something.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Yeah, it's built into the show,
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know. I mean, that doesn't necessarily make it the best show ever, but it does mean that they tried something very ambitious, and they accomplished this thing that a lot of other shows haven't done. And there are other things that shows can do besides this.
Yeah.
And
I feel like no one called out that they did that.
Yeah, exactly. And just the basic, the way the basic structure works, the character arcs, acting, just the aesthetics, the music, the scenery, the way they shot it, you know what I mean? Basic stuff like that. I mean, all of that could be better or worse than any other show, and I would say personally, just purely visual, aesthetically or whatever, Lost isn't my favorite show. Or music wise or whatever. I prefer Twin Peaks. Even just watching Battlestar Galactica, like aesthetically, I prefer that show to Lost. It has this atmosphere that I think Lost doesn't capture, and I always kind of wanted it to, but it just doesn't. It's more, I don't know, more mundane, more down to earth, more
practical.
You know what I mean? It doesn't have such a vibrant and interesting visual style, the way they use the music, and all that stuff. Just the surface level stuff, kind of.
Yeah.
Or Twin Peaks, I think I find both of those shows, but that's a separate thing from what we're talking about, so it's not like I'm saying Lost is the greatest show on every level.
Yeah, for sure.
But they do this thing, and they do it really well. And I can't, and other shows don't. And so that's, I think that's the point. I think that's where maybe it's not giving them too much credit. It's giving them credit for what they're doing.
Yeah, I think so.
Because it's like, Frogurt is fucking terrible. And and no amount of meaning of life is gonna make him a good character.
But here's the problem, right? Because you can't escape it. Is that's part of life? Is you are annoying people you can't escape.
I know. Of course it is. It is. Yeah.
It's like trying to describe the universe without using math or something. It's like, well, or trying to define a word without using the word. It's kind of like, well, I have to use these tools just to even investigate these tools. Yeah. So, yeesh, that doesn't, there's got to be a problem there with my conclusion.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I can't, yeah.
Yeah, and I think to have, could you imagine like Scooby-Doo and they have this like mystery?
Oh my God.
That's just like super pervasive and like at the end it's like, Shaggy's like, well, I don't know, Scoob. I think all this. I think Mr. Johnson was being a ghost because, meaning of life.
Well, that's just what you think, Shaggy.
Yeah, exactly. I made a different interpretation. And then they just slowly turn to the camera and it's like the end.
Yeah. Well, how could you? Oh man, doing that to kids, it would be crazy. Here, kids, this is what life is like.
Yeah, and then the kid is like, Mommy, Scooby-Doo made me sad. What's an existential crisis? I have that.
Yeah, no, it's totally ridiculous. And yeah, mysteries are just not normally written that way. The natural structure of a mystery involves giving answers.
Why do I feel like that would be the French version of Scooby-Doo? Like that every episode ends with them like taking out a cigarette and like not solving the mystery and just like I don't know, Scooby. Je ne sais quoi.
Je ne sais quoi. Je ne sais quoi. Oh man, I can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like they don't coddle their children.
Like David,
kids,
Scooby-Doo. Yeah.
You just have to learn. You just have to understand that this is what life is like. Mm-hmm. You are not. I don't care if you're 2. You're ready for this.
Yeah, it's like when you're opening a box of cereal and you're expecting a prize in there, and then there's no prize.
Yeah.
It's like that's the point. Yeah. Sometimes there's no prize.
That's it.
I'm glad you learned that lesson.
Actually, more often than not, there's no prize. So you really shouldn't have. It's your fault that you expected a prize.
Yeah, and you should have valued when there was a prize more often.
Yeah. Exactly. How lucky you were to get a prize ever.
Ever, yeah. Most boxes don't have prizes.
Exactly.
The box is a metaphor.
The box is a metaphor. Oh, God. Yeah. Is this the magic box? No, Locke, this is the fucking magic box. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Let's not get started on Locke.
I know. We can't. Magic box.
He's like Gomer Pyle. Like, why is he Gomer Pyle?
Well, I don't know, Sergeant.
I guess I'll blow up the sun.
Yeah, he does get really bumbling in season 4, especially that stuff at the end.
Mm-hmm.
It's like with the flowers, like Ben gives him these specific instructions. You gotta go to the chrysanthemums, and then you gotta find the lever, and then the elevator door will open, And then he goes over there, and then Ben's like, couldn't find the chrysanthemums. He's like, well, I didn't know what they looked like.
He's like, I gave you a 3-step process. You couldn't even get to step 2.
I know, he didn't even get past the first fucking thing. He's just standing there staring at the wall, and it's like, oh,
like the fate of all these people rests in his hands.
I know.
He couldn't get the chrysanthemums.
And it's just like, why?
And he's the guy who's about to go convince everybody to return.
I know. Great. I'm glad that's his mission. That's gonna work out really well. Ben does a better job than he does, and everybody hates Ben.
Yeah, exactly.
It's ridiculous.
Wow. Yeah, Ben did it. Ben, it was so easy for Ben.
Yeah. Yeah, he just totally like
But they did what Ben does is he used their sympathy for Locke because he was so pathetic. Like Locke even died over this. It's just like, oh geez.
Yep.
Of course he's dead.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Locke died and you didn't go to the island.
All right, well, I think we could ramble on forever, but
as usual, yes. But yeah, it has to end at some point. We'll certainly be back for the season 4 premiere.
Yep. Looking forward to it.
Super cool. Like getting into that stretch should be fun. It's gonna be a roller coaster.
High octane adventure.
Yeah, it really goes into high gear in those seasons. So there we go.
All right. Well, until next time. Thanks and namaste.
Namaste and good luck.